Hello everyone. We hope you're doing well. We're doing great, and we truly appreciate your ongoing support. We'd like to briefly address some comments regarding our audiobook series. Rest assured, progress is ongoing. That said, your feedback is vital. If there's a novel you particularly enjoy and want to hear more of, please let us know in the comments. Each chapter requires a financial investment, so we can only continue series that receive strong audience interest. Although we retain core names and plot lines, we make significant editorial changes to enhance clarity, pacing, and immersion. These are not simple recitations. We work hard to deliver a polished, thoughtful listening experience. Without sufficient feedback or engagement, we may need to discontinue a series. So if you're enjoying something, don't stay silent. Your input truly matters. Note, our default audio speed is 3x. If that's too fast, let us know. We're happy to adjust it. Interested in early access to unreleased audiobooks? Visit our Patreon. You'll get to experience new content before it reaches YouTube. Just to clarify, I'm a fan like you. I've purchased these novels and adapted them with care, while respecting all rights and guidelines. For updates, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, X. YouTube update: recently, YouTube flagged some of our content for including mature themes, realistic violence, and darker story elements. As a result, we've decided to stop uploading anything that violates YouTube's guidelines. If you'd like access to the full, uncut versions including the more intense or mature content, you can find them on our Patreon page, where we upload everything first. Available now on Patreon: Shattered Innocence transmigrated into a novel as an extra. Transmigrating over 10,000 years late, I was forced to become a mighty presence. I, the celestial dragon, rule the heavens through the double gate, reigning supreme in countless worlds with peace taming, Tower of God sequence strength, cultivation when you take things to the extreme. Naruto is an Uchiha with cyst. WTF, the centuries-old ancestor in our family take concubine again. Plus 18, Ichi, reincarnated in Bleach as a wizard. Thanks for listening and happy listening. Chapter 1, The Judgment. Wait a minute. Why does this truck have no driver? A 23-year-old man was in the middle of an empty street, a fog surrounding his view, making him unable to see anything past the 5 meters mark. It was already weird enough he hadn't met a singular person in around 10 minutes, even though he was on a Friday night, but what the hell was happening? He had just come back from his overtime at his job as a professional accountant, but the moment he tried to traverse a seemingly empty road, a truck came rushing his way, almost as if it was waiting for him in the shadows. The man wasn't dumb. After all, he had read many novels and mangas, but he couldn't let that slide. He had just been hired to his job 3 months ago, and he refused to die and let all those hours go to waste. So, he jumped to his left at the last moment, essentially avoiding the truck right as it was about to kill him. Phew, he wiped the sweat from his forehead. Nice try, you fucking asshole. But right as he turned back his head to see if everything was fine, another truck came rushing from the opposite direction, yet again with no driver behind the wheel. Yeah, okay, this time he didn't even bother to avoid it as it was way too close. Slam! He was hit in full force by the mysterious driverless truck, and immediately died upon impact with the vehicle. And just as predicted, almost as if some weird magic was taking place, the two trucks evaporated right after. They had done their job after all. In an unknown space, a mysterious and powerful being was looking at the sky, lost in thoughts. When will they arrive? He was getting impatient. I sent those two to catch him, but they're taking longer than expected. Just as the being was about to give up hope and go check for himself, a bright light appeared in the distance. The light grew stronger and stronger until a figure emerged from within it. Oh, the figure smiled as it saw the body of the accountant emerge from the rift and fall on the ground as he was unconscious. What took you so long? It spoke, not to the sleeping man, but to the two figures that were behind him. They were covered in white, and their eyes completely dark. Their appearance was grotesque, and a pair of white wings emerged from their backs, as well as pure black horns from the top of their heads. He somehow managed to avoid us once. They both kneeled. The two creatures were the drivers of the trucks, also called the Ascenders, as they were tasked with sending potential individuals to this space, where they would be judged either worthy or unworthy of transmigrating. Very well, sat back on his giant throne. His physical appearance was extremely large, and a single one of his fingers would be enough to crush 100 humans. Bring him here, as the judgment shall begin. The two white creatures got up before bowing to their god, then one of them touched the accountant's forehead, a golden light emerging from its palm. It is done, they informed her before disappearing yet again, off to continue their work. After a few seconds, the man slowly opened his eyes, finding himself in a strange and ethereal realm. He sat up, looking around in confusion at the surreal landscape surrounding him. You are in my dimension, Mer's voice echoed in his ears as he regained consciousness. As he slowly stood up, He took in the surreal surroundings of this new dimension. The sky was a vibrant shade of purple, unlike anything he had ever seen before. The horizon seemed endless, stretching on and on into the unknown. And beneath their feet, the ground was solid yet ethereal, like a floating asteroid suspended in space. But what truly captured his attention were the countless other rock islands that dotted the landscape. They varied in size and shape, some resembling jagged peaks while others were smooth and round. Yet all of them shared one common trait: they too were floating in this bizarre dimension. Beneath his feet lay one of the many islands that dotted the vast expanse of this dimension. But this particular island was the largest, capable of holding not only Roar, but also his massive throne and still leaving plenty of room to spare. Human, the judgment shall begin, the being known as Roar smiled, his entire figure concealed by a dark cloak. The only visible features were his piercing yellow eyes, staring intently at the human before them, and his impossibly wide grin. As he leaned back on his throne, Roar's arms rested casually on the edges, showcasing his long, slender fingers adorned with sharp purple nails. It was clear to the man that whatever was about to happen was anything but good. Judgment? He repeated, staring back at the god. You don't seem too afraid. I like it. Roar laughed. Let's just roll in the tutorial. Tutorial? What is that? In an instant, 3 panels appeared before him, each displaying a crudely drawn image and accompanying text. The drawings looked as though they were sketched by a child, yet somehow held a strange air of otherworldliness. He didn't even feel the need to question whatever was happening, so he started reading. Welcome to the judgment. In this space, many people get judged by the god of fate, Roar, and only those who are deemed fit can pass on to the next world. Below that was a drawing of Roar sitting on his throne, and of a normal person with the text "you" above. Who even drew this? These are basically stickman figures. Those who are deemed unfit are sent to the void. The drawing this time showed the same you falling into the void, which was a dark sphere resembling a black hole, all the while getting zapped by Roar. Amount of people that have passed judgment yet, 0. The third and final image showed a big 0 with Roar around it, a sad expression on his face. Don't act like you're sad, it's your fucking fault, he groaned. The man finished reading the tutorial, then looked back at the god, who seemed proud of himself for drawing that. So let me get this straight, the accountant sighed. Yes, do ask. You ripped me from my original world, and unfairly killed me just to bring me here? And now I have a 99.99% chance of dying or being sent to some unknown void? He held his forehead, unable to comprehend how ridiculous that situation was. Roar looked at him for a second before speaking. Yeah, pretty much. The two looked at one another, and so without hesitation, the man pointed his arms at Roar and gave him the middle finger. Fuck you, he spoke, an annoyed expression on his face. How violent. Roar blinked, surprised by the man's boldness. No one had ever dared to speak to him in such a manner before. But instead of getting angry, a wide grin spread across Roar's face, revealing rows of sharp teeth. So what now? The black-haired man continued. Am I doomed to be judged by some random criteria I'll never know? Human, this test is to make sure that you have your place in this world. It is much harder than you think. Roar tried to justify himself. Who cares? This world probably sucks anyway. Hey, my world doesn't suck, Nua. He made a no gesture with his hand. And yet again, the two stared at one another. You are extremely stubborn, Roar went back to smiling. But I like you. So when does the judgment end? Oh. Suddenly, Roar's pupils began to glow with a golden aura, and the surrounding air seemed to shimmer. But it has already ended. A blinding light enveloped the man, causing him to shield his eyes with his arm. And when it faded, there was a massive hole in the ground in the middle of the previously flat island in front of him, seemingly dug through the solid rock. The man cautiously took a few steps closer to the edge, peering down into the darkness below. Am I supposed to jump? He asked with the most blank of expressions, pointing at the hole, sure that he failed. No. You passed. Roar laughed again. He really enjoyed that man's personality. His laughter echoed off the surrounding cliffs as he gestured towards the hole, revealing a hidden staircase leading down into the depths below. You are the first and only person who will be allowed to pass. Good luck, and don't disappoint me. The man stared down into the depths of the staircases, and once he looked back up, there was no trace of Roar anymore, even the throne had disappeared. Quit trying to act mysterious, he groaned as he began descending. Amount of people that have passed judgment yet, 0 greater than 1. He was descending the stairs, and the more he went on, the more dark and obscure the aura in his surroundings became. And when he reached the last step before entering a black portal in front of him, a panel appeared. Congratulations, someone actually managed to convince Roar, making you the one and only transmigrator of this world. Does this mean I'm getting a system and becoming up in the other world? The man questioned, having read his fair share of Aizen media himself. He always knew it was something the protagonists of these worlds acquired to help them on their journey. Lol, no, and just like that, an unknown force pushed him inside the portal, plunging him into darkness and silence. The sensation was dizzying, disorienting, as if he was hurtling through space and time. And after what felt like hours, days, weeks, months, years, he opened his eyes. Chapter 2, Eventful First Day. The sky was a brilliant shade of blue, with vibrant rays of sunlight cascading towards his eyes. As they adjusted to the bright light and noise, he realized that he was standing on the edge of a building at least 50 meters above the ground. A sea of people looked up at him, their voices blending into a chaotic symphony of concern and confusion. The man's mind raced as he tried to make sense of the situation. The accountant was confused. Suddenly, he heard shouting from below, pleading for him not to jump. He looked up and saw helicopters circling above, their cameras pointed at him. "Don't do it," they shouted. "I know you have no class, but it doesn't matter, it's not worth it." "What the fuck kind of argument is that, and what the hell is a class?" the man groaned, pinching himself to make sure whatever he was in wasn't just some dream and that he wasn't in a coma after being hit by the truck. But the pinch only brought pain, confirming that this was indeed reality. The wind blew through his black hair as he stood on the edge, contemplating the situation he found himself in. The chaos below only seemed to escalate as more and more people gathered. The helicopters were also still spinning in the air, broadcasting whatever was happening live to the entire world. "Yeah, okay," the man laughed as he couldn't hold it in. He couldn't have been put in a more ridiculous situation, but Murs seemed to have a weird sense of humor. He distanced himself from the edge as he didn't want to trip and fall. After all, what would happen to him if he found himself back in Murs' dimension? The god laughing in his face for dying less than 5 minutes after being reincarnated was something he did not want to experience. But right as he moved away from the edge, he heard a voice behind him. "I knew you wouldn't do it, you fucking pussy," said a young-looking boy with tan skin and blonde hair, who despite his age, which was 15, towered over most people at roughly 180 centimeters tall. "What the fuck did you just say to me?" Not impressed, the transmigrator looked at the boy in the eyes, surprising him. "Haha, it seems like this attempt made you go crazy," the boy smirked in response, activating some sort of power that emitted an overwhelming aura around him. "I'll have to put you back in your place again, classless boy." Stark didn't even talk, just tilting his head in confusion. "Stark, you are the lowest of the low and can't do anything right, and yet when I give you a chance to prove yourself, you pussy out?" The man summoned a steel sword out of thin air, it was shimmering with a silver glow. "I'll show you the power of a warrior. Is my name in this world Stark?" he questioned, seemingly unhappy of the name he had gotten. His previous one was way better. He didn't even seem to care about the fact magic was being used in front of him, instead focusing on some internal questions. He had no memories of this body after all, so he would need to start from ground zero. "Pay attention, fucker," the aggressive boy bellowed, his eyes blazing with anger and determination as he charged towards Stark at an alarming speed. His sharp weapon gleamed in the sunlight, ready to slice and dice. Stark simply stood there, lost in thought, not even bothering to acknowledge the other boy's presence, but this only seemed to infuriate him more. "Oh. I get it now, I think this is the tutorial." Stark nodded and hit the palm of his left hand with a fist of his right. Then without missing a beat, he instinctively took a step back, deftly evading the tan boy's attack. The sudden movement caused the aggressive boy to lose balance and tumble over the edge as he wasn't able to stop, not expecting Stark to avoid and so using his full speed. "Huh?" The blonde man looked down as he fell. "Watch out." Someone else jumped. The crowd quickly dispersed, creating a clear path for the falling boy who crashed into the ground with a sickening thud. Meanwhile, Stark calmly looked down at where the boy had fallen before shrugging nonchalantly. "Oh well, I guess I beat the tutorial," he muttered to himself before casually walking away. Walking down the stairs, he realized the building he was in seemed to be some sort of luxurious apartment building. And after a minute, he found himself outside, where the crowd and chaos were located. "Someone call an ambulance, quick." The boy who had attacked Stark was on the ground, moving only slightly as his entire body was covered in blood. Stark looked at him with a blank expression, then shrugged yet again before walking away. Tutorial bosses are really weak, not gonna lie. The commotion and all the cameras were now pointed at the blonde guy, allowing Stark to walk away without much issues, and even though some people noticed him, they didn't bother to ask him if he was okay. Damn, was this guy really that unimportant? Anyway, I need to figure out where I am before something else happens, Stark sighed as he turned the corner. But when he did, "There you are, you little shit." A man in his mid-20s came rushing his way. He also had black hair and looked a lot like him. "Who are you?" he asked, unbothered. "Huh? I'm your brother." "You useless shit," The man grabbed Stark by the arm and forced him to seat at the back seat of a luxurious car. "You are the shame of the family. I honestly think you jumping would have made things easier for us." "How supportive." Stark rolled his eyes, but smiled on the inside. "Where the fuck did you put me, Frankly, he didn't take any of this seriously. After all, for him, all of this was only the tutorial, which meant the introduction. Hopefully he would get basic information about this world soon though. Stark observed his surroundings as the car sped off, taking in the opulence of the vehicle and the expensive-looking buildings passing by. It seemed like he was in a world technologically similar to his previous one. And after 30 minutes and many different landscapes, he finally parked in front of a mansion. Nice, if that's my house then life couldn't get better. Or at least that's what he thought. Chapter 3, The Soul Wielder's Family. Stark stepped out of the car and looked up at the grandeur of the mansion in front of him. The architecture was impressive, exuding an air of wealth and power. Nice, he grinned while nodding, seemingly happy. Good job, Roar, I knew you wouldn't let me down. Mother and father have called you in. There is a meeting with the entire family because of you, Stark's brother commanded, a drop of sweat dripping from his forehead. Okay, Stark didn't mind and walked alongside the stranger. The interior of the mansion was just as luxurious as the exterior, with lavish decorations and expensive furniture adorning every room. As Stark followed his brother through the halls, he couldn't help but feel a sense of detachment from it all. This world, with its opulence and formality, seemed so different from the one he had come from. But after being sent here as Rur's chosen one, he guessed he didn't have much of a choice. Finally, they arrived at a grand meeting room where the rest of the family was already assembled. Stark's parents, adorned in fine clothing and stern expressions, sat at the head of a long table. The other family members, which were basically two other women with red hair, were sitting on the table as well. His father had black hair and red eyes, while his mother had red hair and red eyes as well. Stark, you are 15 years of age, and the class showcase ceremony is in 2 days, yet you disturb everyone again? His father spoke before he could even sit down, his tone filled with authority. Apostrophe. Stark had to take in most of the information he would get during this meeting. After all, he couldn't let it show that he didn't know anything. Yes, very interesting, father. Are you even taking this seriously? His father barked. It's already embarrassing that us, a wreck-known family of soul wielders, are stuck with you. My friends keep mocking me for having you as my brother. One of the red-haired girls got up and slammed her fists on the table. Can't you ever do something right? Interesting, sister, but I don't remember asking. You little shit, a red aura appeared around the girl, glowing immensely. That's why you get bullied. Calm down, honey. Her mother stopped her from using her powers, then looked back at Stark. You attempted to kill yourself, sent one of your classmates to the hospital, and now are disrespecting your siblings? She glared at her son as if he was an animal. Since the moment Stark was born, he was already recognized as the weakest link of the family. The first words his mother uttered as he was born were useless and weak after all, as she sensed he didn't have a single trace of magic in him. But nonetheless, they kept him around since they believed that his powers would come out at a later age, and yet nothing. Man. I don't know what is going on with the guy I got transmigrated into, but looks like his situation is tough. Stark sighed. His thoughts were wandering to all the things he could be doing at this moment to increase his chances of survival in this magic-oriented world, and although he had no idea what or who the threats were, he was still interested in knowing. Can I leave now? He blurted out. His mother and father had been talking for a good 5 minutes, but he hadn't listened as all they did was berate him, plus they wouldn't give him any info since it seemed the only time they talked was to insult him. Of course, under any normal circumstances, Stark would have stayed with his family to take advantage of their money and of the fact he could live in a mansion. But no this time, since he had the feeling that staying in there was asking for death, and even more so when he stared at their eyes, they were cold, ready to kill him if he did anything wrong. Stay if you have a death wish. Even a panel came to confirm what he suspected, and so that's why he wanted to leave. His parents exchanged a disappointed look before nodding, acknowledging Stark's dismissal. Stark, suddenly, all his family members got up from their chair. I'll remind you one last time what makes you so different from us. All of them put their right hand on the area of their body where their heart was located, and suddenly, which different colored and textured hearts appeared. One of them was yellow of color and had a lasso around it, another was red with pulsating veins. His mother's was pink, with hearts surrounding it, while his father's was black, with occasional zaps of lightning. It's because you don't have the soul wielder class that you are so different. All of them seemed powerful, but Stark did wonder how any of this worked, and what all these classes were about. Well. Bye-bye, Stark shrugged. Don't come back then. His father looked at him with determined eyes, almost confident his youngest son didn't have the balls to do any of this. He was always a scaredy cat after all. Okay, Stark took the door out of meeting room and after a few minutes found his way out of the mansion. Man, time to figure out what kind of world I'm in. He decided that going to his school was probably the best option. Back in the meeting room, which was mostly just the dinner room since that's where they ate, all of the family members were flabbergasted. How could Stark change so much in just a day? Just yesterday he was his same old self. Did he have some kind of enlightenment? It's fine, the father calmed down the atmosphere. He is too weak to do anything, and he isn't going to survive the class showcase anyway. Way too many influential figures will be there and he is probably not even gonna participate. Plus we were already planning to kick him out. It wasn't like they really cared anyway. Without Stark in the picture, their family lineage would be perfect. I worked as an accountant for 3 months, and it took me 4 years of studying and 1 year of internship to get to where I was. You think this will scare me? Stark exclaimed to himself. He had already slaved up at his job, so he didn't care much about any of these people. He had just been dropped into this random world with no explanation, but he guessed it was part of the game to discover whatever was happening. And probably enjoyed seeing him struggle, that sadistic bastard. Fuck you, he internally shouted. Bam, he hit a middle-sized rock, that clearly wasn't there 5 seconds ago, and fell to the ground. Fuck you, he repeated while shielding his face, and this time nothing happened. But it looked like this wasn't such an unfortunate event, because as soon as he got up, Stark noticed that a wallet had fallen off from his pants. He was wearing some kind of school uniform currently, but there was only some golden sigil on it, nothing that could confirm the location of his school. A wallet, on the other hand, was everything he needed. Plus, after noticing the wallet, he touched his other pocket and realized he also had a phone. Yahoo! He opened the wallet, and inside were 4 things: his student card, a credit card, a debit card and a note reading, "Have fun exploring this world." So funny. He groaned before tearing up the paper and grabbing the student card. Apparently he was a student of the Lotus Academy, which was some middle school for supposed class prodigies. Bro definitely got in thanks to connections, no other way. Stark smiled. After all, wasn't he supposed to be classless? Oh. But that reminds me, can I check my status window? The paper that was on the ground suddenly formed back to its original state, and a giant yes was written on the back. Status window, I guess, then. And surprisingly, it did work. Chapter 4, Getting Basic Information. As Stark called out for his status window, a semi-transparent display appeared in front of him, showing his information. This was something that every single person in this world had, a status window to check their skills and such. Seeing the panel, Stark sighed in relief. At least it meant he wasn't that weak, or at least he thought. And so, he began reading. Name, Stark Heart Souls. They didn't have the inspiration to pick a better surname, did they? Level 1, Health, 10 out of 10 apostrophe. Bloodline, Human, Class, Classless, Talent, Chosen 1 Stark guessed that he had indeed been chosen by Rur, so not that surprising. Attributes, Strength, 3, Speed, 2, Soul, 14, Stamina, 4, Defense, 3, Skills, Spatial Inventory, Class Wheel, Locked. I guess that's all. He sighed. None of this was exceptional except for maybe the locked skill, but he would need to unlock it somehow. Commentary from her and the stats, might have made a mistake in summoning you. Appreciate the feedback, my guy. Skill, Spatial Inventory, Type, Passive Skill, Level, cannot be upgraded since it is not combat related. Description, this skill is always active, and allows the user whenever he wants to put or take out objects inside of an inventory space only accessible to him, and no, you can't go inside yourself. Class Wheel, Type, Chosen 1, Locked. Description. Damn, Stark was surprised to see he actually had something decent in hand. He didn't get a system as everyone seemed to be able to check this panel, but it was good enough. He then grabbed the phone that was in his pocket. It was his only way of finding basic information after all. Oh, password protected. He was met with a wall, and unfortunately enough, the classless boy didn't put on fingerprint recognition, meaning he was essentially locked out of the phone except if he found the code in less than 5 attempts. Well, I found the name of the middle school he was in, so it doesn't really matter, Stark shrugged. Lotus Academy seemed to be a weird name for a school, but it made sense considering it was supposed to be one that harbored prodigies with powerful classes, or something like that. Stark had his doubts about the middle school he was supposed to be attending. Plus, wasn't there some big event in 2 days? In the end, he realized that he wouldn't be able to figure it out by himself, and instead took a taxi. To Lotus Academy, he ordered the driver. Hey, wait a minute. Weren't you the one that threw that guy from the building? The driver tried to say. To Lotus Academy, please, but Stark just repeated his words. Oh well. As long as I'm paid. Through this discussion, Stark realized that the helicopters and cameras that were pointed at him had truly been broadcasting everything for the whole city, if not country, whatever they are, to see. It took him 40 minutes, and he had to pay a good amount of money, but in the end, he had reached his one and only hint as to what the fuck was happening, the Lotus Academy, which was also his middle school. The Lotus Academy was a grand school with intricate carvings and pillars, a giant lotus above the entrance. The surrounding area was lush with greenery, with a large fountain at the center of the courtyard. There was also a giant screen at the top, with many videos of students fighting one another being broadcasted for all passers-by to see. Stark looked at his surroundings for a few seconds before deciding it was time to enter. There seemed to be nobody around since school must have ended a few hours ago, but as the gates were still open, there was no reason to hesitate. Who's trying to enter at this hour? A muscular man with brown hair appeared from behind the gate as Stark tried to pass, and even he was surprised to see the black-haired classless boy. Stark? Why are you here? Library, he answered with no hesitation in his voice. Oh. The man scratched his head, even he seemed uncomfortable speaking to him. It's weird seeing you come back to school after it ended, but yeah. You do you. Stark nodded, and as he made his way into the academy, he couldn't help but roll his eyes. There was nobody in the luxurious-looking hallways, but just the aura in the inside of the school made it obvious it wasn't one anyone could enter if they didn't have the power, connections to. He just followed the signs that directed to the library, and after a few minutes found himself in front of two wooden doors. He pushed them open and was met with rows upon rows of towering bookshelves, each filled to the brim with ancient tomes and modern textbooks. Stark wandered through the aisles, his fingers trailing along the spines of the books as he scanned the titles, and after a few minutes, he picked out 3 different ones. Classes for beginners, basic information about combat, important events of the world. I hope they give me the needed information. He sat on one of the available tables with the 3 books. But as he was ready to sit down, he turned his head to the left, noticing he wasn't the only one in the library. A blonde-haired girl was staring at him with a confused expression on her face, almost as if she couldn't believe that he was here. What? Before beginning his long lecture, he asked this question as he didn't appreciate that gaze on him. Taken aback, the girl immediately went back to reading the book between her hands. HMFT nothing, don't get cocky. What the fuck is wrong with people in this world? He sighed before opening the first page of a book. A few hours later, as the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the landscape, Stark stretched his hands backwards, releasing a content sigh. The third and final book was finished, and with it came a newfound understanding of his surroundings. I guess it's a bit more clear now. He now understood what was happening around him, and how all of this came to be, but it would have honestly been better if just told him beforehand. Basically, the world he was in was named Riria, with the country named Fellerberg being his current location. In this world, every human possessed a unique power or ability known as a class. It was these classes that set them apart from one another. But Riria was not without its dangers. Most of the outside world was infested with monsters, forcing the population to seek safety within the 28 countries scattered throughout the land. These countries were immense in size, providing ample space for their inhabitants. The reason for the sudden appearance of powers is unknown, but apparently it had always been like this since the beginning. No asteroids hitting the heart or sudden apparition of rifts, towers to other worlds. This was just basic information. But the things that interested Stark the most were the many classes that were present in this world. Chapter 5, The Classes. After understanding the situation around this world, Stark immediately went to learn about the classes and powers that were available. Instead of the normal stuff where everyone could get their own skills and improve depending on what they choose to pursue, this world was extremely different from the rest. Basically, there are 10 classes, and chosen individuals gets placed into one of them, or none if they don't meet the requirements, thus determining their abilities and destiny. The classes are the same for everybody, but it is the inner talent and skills that make the difference. Stark read more about these classes, and as he absorbed the information, he understood more and more why Stark's family seemed to judge him as incompetent. Most of the population don't unlock a class as it is something rare and for powerful individuals, but his family seemed to be one of soul wielders, while on the other hand he was just one of the people. In this world, most people dream to get a class and become classifiers, which is the name for people who fight monsters and have powers. And the 10 classes of this world are Magus, master magicians with the power to control elements and cast powerful spells. The spells can be extremely different between each individual, making everyone unique in their own way. Exorcist, specialists in banishing evil, cursed spirits and curses, possessing abilities to purify their surroundings and protect others from malevolent forces, mainly fight demons and use divine power. Beast tamer, able to summon and control beasts, both magical and mundane, They can create alliances with these creatures to aid in battle and exploration. The more powerful their beasts, the more powerful the tamer is. Warrior, one of the most common classes people get, but still a fairly powerful one as they possess incredible physical strength, durability, and combat skills. They specialize in close quarters combat and have a wide variety of melee techniques at their disposal. Assassin, skilled in stealth, sabotage, and assassination, they are masters of the shadows and can slip past guards undetected, silently eliminating their targets with a deadly precision. Archer, specializing in the use of ranged weapons, primarily bows and arrows, they possess a high degree of accuracy and can strike from a distance with lethal force. Strangely enough, apparently some of them use their abilities on guns. Soul Wielder, ability to summon the power of your soul and materialize your heart in front of you. Your abilities depend on your heart and willpower. It is one of the most mysterious classes and also one of the rarest ones. Alchemist, able to create potions with different effects. They can both sell them or use them in battle to support others or themselves. Potion effects can vary from individual to individual, allowing alchemists to even fight in close-ranged combats with the right potions and ingredients. Succubus/incubus, control the desires of others through their charm and allure. They can drain energy from their victims through physical contact, although most people in this class use it for sex work and to enjoy a luxurious life since they are the most demanded people in dating, marriage. The last and final class has almost no information because of how rare it is. People who have it do not showcase its powers, the rarest class of them all. Yo, can I get the incubus glass? Stark asked. It would be really great if he could enjoy himself. But of course, he got no response, taking it as a no. During his entire stay in the library, Stark felt the stare of the blonde-haired girl on him as she would steal quick glances at him every few seconds under her book, then would act as if nothing was wrong when he turned his eyes toward her. Welp, there's also that class showcase thing that's coming up, really annoying and dangerous. Many people would die during that event since they only wanted the best of the best to be picked, but Stark had just came to this world and had no class, meaning he was probably at the top of the about to die list. I can always ditch it anyway, he shrugged, although it would become difficult to find a place in this unknown world after. And as for how the event would go, well, he would need to see by himself during this fateful day. Well, I guess that's it for today, he sighed and got up from his seat. Noticing that the blonde-haired girl was still staring at him, he just smiled and headed toward the exit door. He didn't know his relationship with her, so he didn't take any risks. Being friendly wouldn't advantage him anyway, not after being almost killed and kicked out by his family from their home. Goodbye, he still spoke as to be respectful and then left. Stark found a hotel nearby afterward, and thanks to the credit card he had, he was able to pay a room for the next few days, although he would need to pay them back at some point. He didn't waste time as he got in his room and immediately went to bed, not even bothering to change as he didn't have any other clothes beside his uniform. Stark was dropped to the bottom, classless, with no friends or allies, and now he would have to build himself back up. He stared at the ceiling of his pitch-black room, and slightly smiled. I guess I'll figure it out somehow. This was how his first day in this new world went, and although he had only found the most basic of information and still had no power, because was a narcissistic greedy bitch, the guy has the world based on his name, he was still confident in his abilities. The next day, when the sun began to appear in the sky, Stark opened his eyes. Although the class showcase was tomorrow, he still needed to attend class apparently. It would help him pass the time and gather more info anyway, so he didn't care. He took a shower and then wore back the same uniform while leaving his room. He didn't have a backpack, but honestly who cares? Skill, class wheel, type, chosen one, locked, description? He inspected that panel while taking the walk to the school, but found nothing that indicated any way to unlock it. Maybe it would come out later. On the way to Lotus Academy, he noticed many other people wearing the same uniform as him, although most of them either ignored his presence or when they looked at him had uncomfortable looks on their faces. He entered the school but had a hard time finding his class. It took him one failed attempt for a teacher to tell him, and then he finally reached it. Class 3 at the door was opened as people were still entering, and so he did just like them. But when he took the first step inside the class, all eyes fell on him. Holy shit. He showed himself again? Does he have a death wish? Such were the whispers that filled the room as Stark walked in. But even in his past life, he wasn't the type to care about such things, so instead he just took a seat at back and glanced at the outside world from the window. And thus, his first day of class started. Chapter 5, The Classes. After understanding the situation around this world, Stark immediately went to learn about the classes and powers that were available. Instead of the normal stuff where everyone could get their own skills and improve depending on what they choose to pursue, this world was extremely different from the rest. Basically, there are 10 classes, and chosen individuals gets placed into one of them, or none if they don't meet the requirements, thus determining their abilities and destiny. The classes are the same for everybody, but it is the inner talent and skills that make the difference. Stark read more about these classes, and as he absorbed the information, he understood more and more why Stark's family seemed to judge him as incompetent. Most of the population don't unlock a class as it is something rare and for powerful individuals, but his family seemed to be one of soul wielders, while on the other hand he was just one of the people. In this world, most people dream to get a class and become classifiers, which is the name for people who fight monsters and have powers. And the 10 classes of this world are Magus, master magicians with the power to control elements and cast powerful spells. The spells can be extremely different between each individual, making everyone unique in their own way. Exorcist, specialists in banishing evil, cursed spirits and curses, possessing abilities to purify their surroundings and protect others from malevolent forces, mainly fight demons and use divine power. Beast tamer, able to summon and control beasts, both magical and mundane. They can create alliances with these creatures to aid in battle and exploration. The more powerful their beasts, the more powerful the tamer is. Warrior, one of the most common classes people get, but still a fairly powerful one as they possess incredible physical strength, durability, and combat skills. They specialize in close quarters combat and have a wide variety of melee techniques at their disposal. Assassin, skilled in stealth, sabotage, and assassination. They are masters of the shadows and can slip past guards undetected, silently eliminating their targets with a deadly precision. Archer, specializing in the use of ranged weapons, primarily bows and arrows. They possess a high degree of accuracy and can strike from a distance with lethal force. Strangely enough, apparently some of them use their abilities on guns. Soul wielder, ability to summon the power of your soul and materialize your heart in front of you. Your abilities depend on your heart and willpower. It is one of the most mysterious classes and also one of the rarest ones. Alchemist, able to create potions with different effects. They can both sell them or use them in battle to support others or themselves. Potion effects can vary from individual to individual, allowing alchemists to even fight in close-ranged combats with the right potions and ingredients. Succubus/incubus, control the desires of others through their charm and allure. They can drain energy from their victims through physical contact, although most people in this class use it for sex work and to enjoy a luxurious life since they are the most demanded people in dating, marriage. The last and final class has almost no information because of how rare it is. People who have it do not showcase its powers, the rarest class of them all. Yo, can I get the incubus glass? Stark asked. It would be really great if he could enjoy himself. But of course, he got no response, taking it as a no. During his entire stay in the library, Stark felt the stare of the blonde-haired girl on him as she would steal quick glances at him every few seconds under her book, then would act as if nothing was wrong when he turned his eyes toward her. Welp, there's also that class showcase thing that's coming up, really annoying and dangerous. Many people would die during that event since they only wanted the best of the best to be picked, but Stark had just came to this world and had no class, meaning he was probably at the top of the about-to-die list. I can always ditch it anyway, he shrugged, although it would become difficult to find a place in this unknown world after. And as for how the event would go, well, he would need to see by himself during this fateful day. Well, I guess that's it for today, he sighed and got up from his seat. Noticing that the blonde-haired girl was still staring at him, he just smiled and headed toward the exit door. He didn't know his relationship with her, so he didn't take any risks. Being friendly wouldn't advantage him anyway, not after being almost killed and kicked out by his family from their home. Goodbye, he still spoke as to be respectful and then left. Stark found a hotel nearby afterward, and thanks to the credit card he had, he was able to pay a room for the next few days, although he would need to pay them back at some point. He didn't waste time as he got in his room and immediately went to bed, not even bothering to change as he didn't have any other clothes beside his uniform. Stark was dropped to the bottom, classless, with no friends or allies, and now he would have to build himself back up. Yawn, he stared at the ceiling of his pitch-black room, and slightly smiled. I guess I'll figure it out somehow. This was how his first day in this new world went, and although he had only found the most basic of information and still had no power, because was a narcissistic greedy bitch, the guy has the world based on his name, he was still confident in his abilities. The next day, when the sun began to appear in the sky, Stark opened his eyes. Although the class showcase was tomorrow, he still needed to attend class apparently. It would help him pass the time and gather more info anyway, so he didn't care. He took a shower and then wore back the same uniform while leaving his room. He didn't have a backpack, but honestly who cares? Skill, class wheel, type, chosen one, locked, description? He inspected that panel while taking the walk to the school, but found nothing that indicated any way to unlock it, Maybe it would come out later. On the way to Lotus Academy, he noticed many other people wearing the same uniform as him, although most of them either ignored his presence or when they looked at him had uncomfortable looks on their faces. He entered the school but had a hard time finding his class. It took him one failed attempt for a teacher to tell him, and then he finally reached it. Class 3A, the door was opened as people were still entering, and so he did just like them. But when he took the first step inside the class, all eyes fell on him. Holy shit. He showed himself again? Does he have a death wish? Such were the whispers that filled the room as Stark walked in. But even in his past life, he wasn't the type to care about such things, so instead he just took a seat at back and glanced at the outside world from the window. And thus, his first day of class started. Chapter 5, The Classes. After understanding the situation around this world, Stark immediately went to learn about the classes and powers that were available. Instead of the normal stuff where everyone could get their own skills and improve depending on what they choose to pursue, this world was extremely different from the rest. Basically, there are 10 classes, and chosen individuals gets placed into one of them, or none if they don't meet the requirements, thus determining their abilities and destiny. The classes are the same for everybody, but it is the inner talent and skills that make the difference. Stark read more about these classes, and as he absorbed the information, he understood more and more why Stark's family seemed to judge him as incompetent. Most of the population don't unlock a class as it is something rare and for powerful individuals, but his family seemed to be one of soul wielders, while on the other hand he was just one of the people. In this world, most people dream to get a class and become classifiers, which is the name for people who fight monsters and have powers. And the 10 classes of this world are Magus, master magicians with the power to control elements and cast powerful spells. The spells can be extremely different between each individual, making everyone unique in their own way. Exorcist, specialists in banishing evil, cursed spirits and curses, possessing abilities to purify their surroundings and protect others from malevolent forces, mainly fight demons and use divine power. Beast tamer, able to summon and control beasts, both magical and mundane. They can create alliances with these creatures to aid in battle and exploration. The more powerful their beasts, the more powerful the tamer is. Warrior, one of the most common classes people get, but still a fairly powerful one as they possess incredible physical strength, durability, and combat skills. They specialize in close quarters combat and have a wide variety of melee techniques at their disposal. Assassin, skilled in stealth, sabotage, and assassination. They are masters of the shadows and can slip past guards undetected, silently eliminating their targets with a deadly precision. Archer, specializing in the use of ranged weapons, primarily bows and arrows. They possess a high degree of accuracy and can strike from a distance with lethal force. Strangely enough, apparently some of them use their abilities on guns. Soul wielder, ability to summon the power of your soul and materialize your heart in front of you. Your abilities depend on your heart and willpower. It is one of the most mysterious classes and also one of the rarest ones. Alchemist, able to create potions with different effects. They can both sell them or use them in battle to support others or themselves. Potion effects can vary from individual to individual, allowing alchemists to even fight in close-ranged combats with the right potions and ingredients. Succubus/incubus, control the desires of others through their charm and allure. They can drain energy from their victims through physical contact, although most people in this class use it for sex work and to enjoy a luxurious life since they are the most demanded people in dating, marriage. The last and final class has almost no information because of how rare it is. People who have it do not showcase its powers, the rarest class of them all. Yo, can I get the incubus glass? Stark asked. It would be really great if he could enjoy himself. But of course, he got no response, taking it as a no. During his entire stay in the library, Stark felt the stare of the blonde-haired girl on him as she would steal quick glances at him every few seconds under her book, then would act as if nothing was wrong when he turned his eyes toward her. Welp, there's also that class showcase thing that's coming up, really annoying and dangerous. Many people would die during that event since they only wanted the best of the best to be picked, but Stark had just came to this world and had no class, meaning he was probably at the top of the about to die list. I can always ditch it anyway, he shrugged, although it would become difficult to find a place in this unknown world after. And as for how the event would go, well, he would need to see by himself during this fateful day. Well, I guess that's it for today, he sighed and got up from his seat. Noticing that the blonde-haired girl was still staring at him, he just smiled and headed toward the exit door. He didn't know his relationship with her, so he didn't take any risks. Being friendly wouldn't advantage him anyway, not after being almost killed and kicked out by his family from their home. Goodbye, he still spoke as to be respectful and then left. Stark found a hotel nearby afterward, and thanks to the credit card he had, he was able to pay a room for the next few days, although he would need to pay them back at some point. He didn't waste time as he got in his room and immediately went to bed, not even bothering to change as he didn't have any other clothes beside his uniform. Stark was dropped to the bottom, classless, with no friends or allies, and now he would have to build himself back up. He stared at the ceiling of his pitch-black room, and slightly smiled. I guess I'll figure it out somehow. This was how his first day in this new world went, and although he had only found the most basic of information and still had no power, because was a narcissistic greedy bitch, the guy has the world based on his name, he was still confident in his abilities. The next day, when the sun began to appear in the sky, Stark opened his eyes. Although the class showcase was tomorrow, he still needed to attend class apparently. It would help him pass the time and gather more info anyway, so he didn't care. He took a shower and then wore back the same uniform while leaving his room. He didn't have a backpack, but honestly who cares? Skill, class wheel, type, chosen one, locked, description? He inspected that panel while taking the walk to the school, but found nothing that indicated any way to unlock it. Maybe it would come out later. On the way to Lotus Academy, he noticed many other people wearing the same uniform as him, although most of them either ignored his presence or when they looked at him had uncomfortable looks on their faces. He entered the school but had a hard time finding his class. It took him one failed attempt for a teacher to tell him, and then he finally reached it. Class 3 the door was opened as people were still entering, and so he did just like them. But when he took the first step inside the class, all eyes fell on him. Holy shit. He showed himself again? Does he have a death wish? Such were the whispers that filled the room as Stark walked in. But even in his past life, he wasn't the type to care about such things, so instead he just took a seat at back and glanced at the outside world from the window. And thus, his first day of class started. Countdown before the class showcase, one day, Chapter 6, Dual Request. As Stark sat in the classroom, trying to focus on the lesson being taught, he couldn't help but feel the weight of everyone's gaze on him. It was clear that his arrival had stirred up some kind of reaction among his classmates, as most of them had seen the video that was going around the internet of him tricking the other guy into falling off a building. And after an hour of boring lessons he tried his hardest to listen to. Slam the door of the classroom opened, and 3 guys entered it as if they were the kings. Stark immediately noticed that one of the boys, who was also the leader, was the tan blonde-haired man he had tricked yesterday. Daniel, I won't allow you to cause havoc in my class, the teacher, a man in his mid-40s, who also looked used to this types of scenes, retorted. But Daniel brushed him off, pointing his hand at Stark. Me, at the back of the school right after class ends, I'm finally going to end your pathetic life, you parasite. Holy shit. Daniel actually asked for a duel. Doesn't it mean he is gonna kill him? I want to see that. It seemed like people were excited to see the fight, and looking at Daniel's expression, it looked like he was ready to kill. His powers and family influence probably enough to let him get away with that. But Stark wasn't impressed. Since when do tutorial bosses get second phases? He sighed. And without even taking the time to let him answer, Daniel and his little gang left as it wasn't their classroom. This guy was massively injured yesterday, and now he is back as if nothing happened. I guess there must be some powerful healers, huh? The class continued for the rest of the day, but nobody could really focus as all they were waiting for was the upcoming confrontation where Daniel would decimate Stark. Surprisingly, Stark was the only one that didn't look bothered by this at all, almost as if he didn't care. And he actually didn't. As the bell rang for the end of the day, the students began to file out of the classroom, chattering about the upcoming duel between Stark and Daniel. It was the talk of the school. The black-haired boy in question slowly left the classroom too and then followed the crowd toward the back of the school, wanting to just win this fight and get this over with. Are you this confident you could win? This panel appeared before him, and he stopped for a few seconds to read it. Yeah, he replied before resuming to walk. Why are you this confident? I don't know, I just am somehow. Tutorials aren't that hard, you know. It's not, you know what, forget about it, and then it disappeared. Stark took the exit door then headed toward the courtyard, which was the back of the school he guessed. It was a massive open area surrounded by other middle-sized buildings, filled with benches and trees. There were also many terrains used for different activities, but mainly for student fighting as it was part of the curriculum for them to train and improve their classes. As he walked across it, he spotted Daniel and his gang waiting for him near the edge of a field, surrounded by at least 200 students, and even some teachers. Stark approached them, and noticing his presence, the students made way for him, then shortly closed the circle afterward, stopping a few feet away. Daniel, the blonde-haired boy, looked at Stark with a sneer. So you actually came. Looks like I'll be entertaining myself today. Stark raised an eyebrow and smirked. Well, if we're going to do this, let's get it over with. Sensing that this wouldn't lead to anything good, One of the teachers, a woman with brown hair that reached her waist and a very voluptuous body, put herself between the two boys. "There is no need to continue this charade, just forget about it and go back home," she shouted, mainly glancing at Stark as she was sure he would lose. But Daniel didn't care about any of this, and instead he mumbled, "Duel request, Stark." After whispering those words, a crimson panel appeared in front of Stark. "Duel request, Daniel, type, deathless, yes or no." With a smirk on his face, Stark looked at the panel before responding. "Why?" Immediately, the panel vanished, and the students surrounding them fell silent. The teacher, who was in the middle of the two boys, was ejected out of their circle in full force, then landed on the ground a few meters away. A giant sphere had formed around Daniel and Stark. This was the arena of the duel, and nobody would be able to disturb them in there. Very game-like. I wonder just how many more things like this will come up. Stark scratched his chin. Commentary from her. "My guy, aren't you scared? You have no class and your stats are much weaker." "Nah, I'd win, plus I'm sure you wouldn't let me just die like this, would you?" He grinned. "Yeah." A countdown then appeared above their arena. 5.4.3.2.1, go, and right as the countdown ended, Stark got two notifications. Ding ding. New skill, perception, type, passive skill, level, cannot be upgraded since it is not combat related. Description: this skill is always active, and allows the user to check the name, level, class, attributes and skills of the person in front of them, also items. Nice. Stark didn't waste time and immediately used it to check Daniel. Name, Daniel Pridel, level, 12, class, warrior, HP, 1250, strength, 42, speed, 27, stamina, 64, defense, 107, skills, strike, force, buff, okay. He is definitely way stronger than me. Stark was actually surprised the difference was this blatant. But before Stark could even check out the second notification he had gotten, Daniel summoned his steel sword from thin air then dashed toward him. Seeing him come at him at full speed, Stark realized he wouldn't be able to avoid it like he did last time. "I have made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment." He was mainly speaking to her while smirking. "Do not fret, everything will be fine." Daniel used strike and hit Stark in the stomach, causing him 374 points of damage, which was way more than his measly 10 horsepower. Chapter 7, The Domination Class. Stark dropped to the ground on his two knees, blood pouring out from the wound as Daniel removed his blade. "Pathetic loser, I should have done this the moment I saw you." He knew Stark couldn't have had more than 374 horsepower as he was extremely weak, so once he saw those numbers above his head, he knew it was game over. "I guess that's it. Not even that interesting, huh? What the fuck did you expect? It's like putting a toddler agaze in a pit bull." But no. This couldn't be the end, not after all that confidence Stark had given. After all, there was no way he would just let himself die like this. Talent, Chosen One, type, instant use, perks, number 1. When the user receives critical damage, enough to kill him in one singular attack, he can use his talent and willpower to keep going, setting his HP to 1. Number 2. Amidst your journey, your talent will bring forth many events, both good and bad. Stark smiled lightly once he realized he wasn't dead, just extremely injured. Health, 1 out of 10, critical condition. He decided to use this opportunity to check the second notification he had gotten. After all, he was sure he wouldn't have gotten nothing while being sent to a world like this. And as expected. Skill, class wheel unlocked. He grinned as he began reading the description. Class wheel, type, Chosen One, level, ultimate, description. When sent to another world using the power of a god, and when chosen by that god, a person is granted one simple talent and skill to aid them. This skill allows the user to spin the wheel of classes. With determination blazing in his eyes, Stark watched as Daniel basked in his victory and reveled in the adoration of the suckers in the crowd. But Stark refused to let this opportunity slip away. With a newfound skill burning at his fingertips, he knew he had one final chance to turn the tables. "See, I told you I would get something," Stark smiled. "Class wheel, activate," he whispered. And just like that, a giant colorful wheel appeared before him, each of its 10 sections representing a class within this world, ranging from archer, to soul wielder to even incubus. It seemed to beckon to Stark, waiting for him to spin it and choose his fate. Hovering next to the wheel was a pulsing level, adorned with the words "Pull Me" in bold letters. "Welp, here goes nothing." Stark smiled and raised his injured arm to pull the lever down. Spin. As the wheel began to spin, Stark looked up to see what he would get. It was basically like a gambling addiction, except it would actually determine his entire future. The wheel continued to spin, each colorful segment glowing brighter as it passed by, but nobody seemed to notice it, probably since it was only visible to the host. While spinning, Stark took the time to notice all the classes available. Magus, Exorcist, Beast Tamer, Warrior, Archer, Assassin, Soul Wielder, Incubus, Alchemist and Domination? He had never read about a class named Domination though, making him wonder if it was the one that had little to no information. A simple red arrow at the top middle of the wheel would determine which class he would be getting. And after a few seconds, the wheel gradually began to slow down, making the pressure 10 times as high. Come on. Incubus or Soul Wielder? He repeated those two classes in his head as it was the ones he really wanted. Don't ask him why he wanted Incubus. When the wheel became slow enough for him to actively be able to read the names of the classes, he kept praying. And after a few seconds, FSSSH, oh my god, it's heading toward Soul Wielder. He was calculating the outcome, and by the low speed and position of the sections, it was indeed going to stop on that class. Against all odds, the wheel stopped at the edge of Soul Wielder. Yes. He laughed. But of course, it was Stark, it was a given he wouldn't be lucky. The wheel had in fact not stopped moving, its speed was just so low it became almost invisible to the naked eye, and so the section moved, resulting in the arrow to move past Soul Wielder and stop at Domination? Seriously? He was frankly angry, he felt scammed, and wondered if he could get a second spin if he asked nicely enough. The host will be able to spin the wheel and unlock a new class once they reach level 25, Domination is a good class, D. Not wanting to waste any seconds, Stark decided to check his class description, making sure Daniel was still paying attention only to the crowd. Class, Domination, description. Each class has their strength and weaknesses, but this one is called Domination thanks to its ability, with enough training, to absolutely dominate all others, the rarest class of them all, but also the strongest. Class effect, your life will become a living hell. Class flaw, the Domination trial. Class weapon, fists and magic. Basic skills, focus, domination. Thank you for the explanation, my man, I understood absolutely nothing. Stark nodded, still kneeling on the ground, but reading informations about his class made him realize he had also acquired 2 new skills. Skill, focus, type, basic class skill, level 1, description, increases the user's concentration and focus, allowing them to perform tasks more efficiently and with increased control. Time seems to move in your favor. Skill, domination, type, basic class skill, level 1, description, ability to perfectly control the user's aura and use it to attack relentlessly. The amount of damage dealt to the opponent is completely based on the amount of aura used, it increases with level. Even though Stark had no idea what any of these skills meant, he knew he had to try them out. Domination. He closed his eyes, and as soon as the skill activated, he felt a strange flow of aura around his body. Without wasting any time, he subconsciously put his available aura around his hands and feet, a crimson light now radiating outwards in waves around them, then dashed toward Daniel, his speed now immensely increased from that. Daniel, who was still basking in his victory, suddenly felt a shiver down his spine as if someone had just walked over his grave. But he didn't even have the time to turn back that something hit his head with full force. It was Stark's fist. -827. This number arose above Daniel's head as he fell face first to the ground, indicating the amount of damage he had taken from his available 1,250 horsepower. Stark had just taken 2/3 of his life from this singular attack. Chapter 8, Flawless Victory. What the fuck? Stark was surprised. He had not expected such a great amount of damage from a singular attack, but he guessed that attacking from behind and at the head did increase it. When people fought monsters, people in this world, the amount of damage dealt was displayed for everyone to see, meaning that the entire crowd had seen the 827 appear as Stark hit Daniel. You fucker, Daniel didn't understand, but still having his steel sword in hand, he turned back and swung at Stark with the goal of ending him for good. Commentary from her. It would be advised to stop this while possible to hide your powers. This could lead you to becoming more powerful and having less enemies. Hahaha, you think I'm stopping now? But Stark dismissed the idea. He wasn't a real fan of hiding his powers anyways. What use would there be to do that if he was gonna die? Focus. Stark mumbled the name of his other skill, and suddenly his vision became clearer. Before Daniel could even finish his attack, Stark was able to slightly see it coming, and although his speed stat was still very low, the domination and focus skills allowed him to just barely avoid the strike by backing away at the last second. Even blocking an attack could cause him 1 point of damage and kill him, meaning even that wasn't an option. Daniel's eyes widened in disbelief as he failed to land a solid blow on Stark. He could feel the crowd's growing tension and shock, and the frustration welling up inside him. Stark, using his perception skill, could see the amount of health Daniel had left. HP, 423 out of 1,250. This meant that the next person to hit the other would be declared the winner, making the pressure between the two fighters grow even more. Time to end this, Stark smiled, Daniel on the other hand was losing it. He had always been considered one of the strongest in Lotus Academy, and although he hadn't started his classifier life yet, he was still fairly respected by all. Girls were all over him and boys didn't dare to defy him, no matter what he said. And yet, Stark, the one he always considered to be the weakest, was here, humiliating him in front of others. Wipe that smirk off your face. He was actually going insane, and so without waiting no more, he dashed towards Stark. Stark had indeed been smiling the whole time, enjoying the view as the boy that tried to kill him twice already was struggling. Surprisingly enough, the more Stark was in control of the situation, the brighter and stronger his aura was getting, and he did notice it. I need to figure out how this works later, he thought to himself. Daniel used both the buff skill, which doubled his stats, and strike to attack Stark. But the black-haired boy saw it coming using focus, closing his eyes as he avoided the second attack from Daniel, which missed its target again. Stark saw the window of opportunity as Daniel was still recovering from his failed strike. He crouched in front of the 180 centimeters tall boy, then focused all his aura into his right hand for this final attack. And then, Saya. Stark, with sweat pouring down his forehead, laughed again. Daniel's eyes widened as he saw Stark below him, positioned in a way that indicated he was about to attack from below. He couldn't see the aura around Stark, but all his senses screamed for him to run away or abandon the duel now. Help, he tried to scream, but nobody would be able to hear him from this distance, plus most of them were so focused on the fight they couldn't hear him speak. But nobody came, Stark answered as he was the only one that heard his pleads. Bam! Stark with a sudden movement began uppercutting Daniel in the chin, and of course, the clueless 15-year-old wasn't able to do anything against such a fast attack. -1281. Daniel was sent flying against the edge of the arena, hitting it in full force as he received the entirety of his life in that singular attack. HP, 0 out of 1250, and this meant winner, Stark Heart Souls. Playboys like you need to stay put and learn their places. He smiled. Giant green text appeared above the arena for everyone to see, but most of them were too shocked to even say anything, unable to comprehend the scene before them. Stark, the weak Stark, had just beaten Daniel? Some even rubbed their eyes, thinking that it must be a joke. But everything was reality, and once the transparent sphere that kept the two fighters safe from other people's interruptions disappeared, many students and teachers went to check on Daniel. Many thought that he would get up and get angry like usual, or maybe shout at the teachers. But no. The type of this duel was deathless, meaning that the two would fight to the death, then be revived afterward. It is like some sort of all-in fight where people could use all their powers without risking death, and that meant he is just unconscious. One of the teachers announced after checking his pulse. After all, a deathless match meant even if your HP dropped to 0, you wouldn't die. And so right after the news, all eyes fell on Stark. Why are you all so surprised? Of course the main character would beat the tutorial boss, wouldn't he? He grinned, confident that what he did was good. You are not a main character, and this isn't a tutorial boss, but whatever, good job. Maybe hiding his powers was the better move in the long term, since most wouldn't suspect the poor little Stark to have any classes, and maybe even believe that the first damage he had caused to Daniel was luck, but now that he had beaten him, there was absolutely no doubt there was something strange going on. Oh well. I usually love to boast about my work at my company, so it doesn't matter. He had taken his personality as an office worker to this new world. You have absolutely destroyed that fool Daniel Pride, gaining 1,471 experience points. Experience, 1,000 out of 1,000. Stark was enveloped in a golden glow as he noticed that he had reached the needed amount of experience to level up. Beating someone in a duel would of course mean some sort of reward, or else people might just abuse them to train, and in this case Stark had effectively stolen some of Daniel's experience, although not much since he hadn't killed him. Your level has increased to level 2, granting you 1 skill point and boost in stats. Current level, level 2, experience, 471 out of 5,000, nice. Seems like everything works out in the end. This is what I call a good ending. Stark was happy with himself. But once he looked away from his screen panels to check his surroundings, he noticed all the surprised, scared, and astonished gazes on him. What? He asked, taking all of them aback. Chapter 9, The Awakening. Everyone in the courtyard, both students and teachers alike, knew the sight of someone's level going up since they experienced it at least once, or because they had seen someone else online. But what scared them the most in this situation was the fact the first time Stark had leveled up was from beating up Daniel in a duel, and he didn't even seem to care. Amidst the stunned silence, a few whispers began to ripple through the crowd, their voices barely above a whisper. A monster. What the fuck just happened? Daniel got beaten? Stark was slightly tired from the encounter, and sensing that his first day of school had been greatly spent improving his abilities, he decided that it was time to head back home. Good job, now everyone knows about your powers. I don't think anyone is gonna expect me to be from the domination class though, as it is so rare. Fair enough, yawned Stark, stretched his arms. But wait. Doesn't that mean I wouldn't have died even if he killed me? He just understood what deathless meant, yet in the end decided it didn't matter whether Daniel would be revived or not, he had done his part. But as soon as he took the first step toward the exit, his pupils started burning, as if they were set on fire, resulting in him putting his hands over his eyes. He was screaming, taking aback everyone, his entire body surrounded by a crimson aura. Using his quick thinking to try and find an explanation to what the hell was happening, Stark's mind immediately went toward the information he had acquired in the books from the library. His body was still burning, the aura now spread throughout everything, even his hair feeling like it was set on fire. Information about classes: when someone awakens a class, they will, in most cases, immediately collapse because of the power they just acquired. The duration of sleep completely depends on the person, but it is said the faster a person wakes up, the stronger their class and potential is, although that doesn't mean they will be the strongest. Some people actually fail their awakening even after unlocking their classes, making them just like the rest of people, and some don't even wake up since their potential or mana is just too low. Additional info: it has been recorded that the world record for fastest awakening, which is currently held by Miss Catherine, also named the Dragon Tamer, is of 1 day and 3 hours. The fact Stark stayed up long enough to finish the battle was already a miracle. But wait. Doesn't that mean there is a big chance I miss the class showcase if I don't wake up? Stark thought as he fell to his knees. The pain had become quite numb now, but his mind was screaming for him to just close his eyes and succumb to the tiredness. And so he did. He collapsed to the ground in front of everyone's surprised gazes. 3 hours later. As Stark opened his eyes, the fiery aura surrounding him slowly dissipated, completely seeping into his body for him to use. Meaning that he had indeed been capable of acquiring the domination class, but it wasn't unexpected either since he had already been capable of using it. As he checked his surroundings, he noticed he was located in some sort of infirmary. The sun was beginning to go down, but he guessed that it was still the afternoon. How long has it been? This was his biggest worry. After all, he really wanted to participate during the class showcase as it would allow him to gain more power. Around 3 hours, a feminine voice answered his question. Oh, well, I guess it's fine. Wait, what? He turned his gaze toward a chair located to his bedside, and there sat the blonde-haired girl he saw at the library yesterday. Looking up close, she was extremely beautiful, and most girls would be jealous of her impressive figure, but Stark wasn't interested in any of that for now. He immediately got out of the bed he had been resting on. I carried you here by myself since nobody wanted to touch you, but it seems like it wasn't bad. She was reading a book while talking to him. Is she expecting some kind of reward for helping me out? Or maybe a favor from me in the future? Stark felt like receiving such kindness out of nowhere was extremely weird. Outstanding determination, only 3 hours sleeping after an awakening? I might have made the right decision picking you. Oh yeah, that's true, although she doesn't look surprised. He was talking about the girl beside him. Most people wouldn't even believe you if you told them you awakened in 3 hours, so they must believe it's just a coma after exhausting yourself with Daniel. Wait, does that mean? Yes, although you have shown incredible power, many people think you cheated or got the luckiest battle of your life. How does that even make sense? He shouted, absolutely furious his efforts were reduced to mere luck. Even in his past, Stark really enjoyed being praised. Huh? The blonde-haired girl looked at him as though he was crazy. Nothing. He began heading toward the exit of the infirmary, and the girl that was sitting on the chair didn't even bother to glance at him. And then, he left. As soon as he closed the door behind him though, the girl that had taken care of him for the past hours closed down the book between her hands and let out a deep sigh. What the hell was that? She kept thinking about the feeling she had gotten while carrying Stark here. It was an unexplainable power that was emitting from him. PFFT cheater, investigate him. Maybe he used the power he would get during his entire life for that? She heard such talk from others, but deep inside, she felt like this couldn't be it. There was no way someone could do 800 points of damage out of nowhere. Although she didn't believe he had gotten a class either since he hadn't awakened all this time, plus he was sleeping only for 3 hours, which was a day below the world record, but maybe it was something else. Well, after waiting 5 minutes, she got up from her seat and began heading toward the exit. The beginning of our classifier's lives is tomorrow, so I need to be full of energy and mana to make sure everything is fine. Chapter 10, The Class Showcase. Stark woke up in the morning feeling refreshed. He just had gotten the best night of sleep ever. Even in his previous life he couldn't sleep much because of work, but everything in here seemed fine. Except for the fact 5 seconds later he remembered that today was the big day. Not only was it his graduation ceremony from Lotus Academy, but this also meant he would have to participate in this class showcase event to continue his life in this world. He had absolutely no way of knowing what could happen there except for the book he had read 2 days ago, but he had the overall gist of it. He took a shower, ate some food he had bought from a convenience store nearby, then left, yet again with the same school uniform. Once outside, he remarked that many people weren't wearing his school uniform, instead opting for armors and clothes with powerful materials, at least for their levels. They also didn't have their usual backpacks, instead they were carrying ones filled with items, and also had their weapons in hand, showing them to others. Some had small animals, creatures on their shoulders, beast tamer, while others had a wooden cross in hand, exorcist. Stark on the other hand had nothing, his only weapon were his fist, and he would make sure to beat up everything in his way. He was especially angry after yesterday since most people didn't even consider his performance yesterday as legit. Once in front of the school gates, he saw text written on the giant screen at the top of the academy. Head to the gymnasium if you are a third year. Following the crowd of people, he found himself in front of the giant building, many teachers beside the doors to welcome the students. There were at least 300 people inside the gymnasium, all third years who would participate in the class showcase and hopefully become stronger. And after a few minutes inside, minutes where the atmosphere was filled with talking and flexing, the doors of the gymnasium closed, and all the lights went off. Suddenly, everything became silent as all the students were looking at the stage that had been set. The class showcase wasn't the only interesting part about this whole ordeal, it was also the fact that the group Golden Dragons would be the ones to explain the event and bring them there. Golden Dragons are a mercenary group specialized in the development of the youth, with the sole goal of making the new classifiers stronger and increasing their chances of survival in the rifts. Obviously, all their members were extremely powerful and famous, many of them envied by many. Apostrophe. Stark stared at stage with a blank expression, and a few seconds later, flash 5 golden pillars of light appeared on it, and what came out of them were 3 men and 2 women, each with their respective outfits and weapons in hand, all looking powerful. Oh my god. Is that Yuli, the Heart Master? And that's Alex, the Ice Magus. While most people were amazed by their sudden appearance, the one in the middle, a man in his mid-40s with short white hair as well as a monocle, cleared his throat, resulting in the entire gymnasium to go silent. Today is a big day for all of you, it is the start of your lives as classifiers, he began his speech, his voice filled with authority. I know many have only been dreaming of this moment all this time, but do not forget that fighting is not a game, and that you will truly be risking your lives today. Next to him, a woman with long blue hair and magnificent ocean-colored eyes stared at the students, a staff in her hand. The rift you will be going to today, as most of you know, is a beginner level 1 called City Ruins. The recommended level is 5 to 15, so it is advised to be within that range, but I'm sure most of you already are. Wait a damn second, Stark stopped for a few seconds to check his status. Level 2 apostrophe. He shrugged, oh well. You, as well as many other recognized middle schools from Fellerberg will be participating in this event. As you may all know, the best performing people will probably have all eyes on them, so I advise you to try your best, while also making sure not to die. There is no second life after all, the man in the middle continued, a bittersweet smile on his face, a sign that he had seen hundreds of people die already in front of him. Through the books he had read, Stark realized that there wasn't just one academy in Fellerberg, instead there were dozens of them, each of them specialized in their own classes or future professions. Meaning that most of the population that wanted to improve their skills without going to an academy would need to move away, be scouted by a powerful teacher, guild, or just keep going solo, creating a party. And so just like that, the Golden Dragon's speech ended. Following that, the students inside the gymnasium were guided toward several buses that were set outside the school to guide them toward the first rift. Rifts in this world are basically like dungeons where monsters and items spawn. They are a portal to other worlds, and each of the recognized ones are classed by level and difficulty. There are 7 difficulties: beginner, novice, advanced, hell, nightmare, determination, death. Thankfully enough, the first one was only a beginner level with a 5 to 15 level requirement. But this didn't mean this was easy, far from that, it was only the first one they would need to go through, and even then, many will succumb to the monsters. Without delay, all students boarded a bus heading towards Leforia, which is located southeast of Fellerberg. As they drew closer to Leforia, all the students inside the vehicles felt a surge of excitement, and even Stark wasn't spared from that. For many, it was the first time they were going to get first-hand experience in combat, as most only got to their levels using their wealth. Pay-to-win bullshit. Stark groaned as he looked out the window. The seat beside him was empty as no one wanted to sit next to him. The bus journeyed on, and before long, they reached their destination. When they did, the sun had already begun descending, announcing the fact the afternoon was soon to end. They were now just outside what was called the safe zone. Every single rift was outside of it, making it impossible for anyone to go without at least risking their lives just a bit. Not far from them, many corpses of decaying creatures eliminated by the golden dragons were resting, making everyone realize the extent of what they were going to do from now on. If anyone wants to give up, speak now or silence yourself forever. Oliver, the leader of the golden dragons, spoke. There will be no help inside the rift, and I can promise you way too many new classifiers die before even completing it. But nobody spoke. They had gone too far to give up now, plus it was either completion and improvement, or the risk of being disowned or kicked out of their family home. In front of the students was a giant ruin, obscured by a dark aura everyone could sense, no matter their levels. It was the city ruins dungeon. Noticing no one was moving, Oliver smiled. It is great to see such determination. You may now do whatever you feel is right. And just like that, they were allowed to move around now. Apostrophe. Stark stared at the ruins before him, a face full of excitement. Welp, it's now or never. Who cares if they don't believe in my capabilities? I don't need them anyway. Chapter 11, City Ruins. As soon as the golden dragons and all other adults disappeared using some intricate spells, all that was remaining around the ruins were students from many different middle schools, making their numbers range in the thousands. Instantly, the surroundings became alike to some kind of market or guild, many people asking for others to create a party with them, and others selling items they brought just for this occasion. Stark, on the other hand, wasn't asked to join any party, and no one even tried to sell him anything. But he didn't mind, he only smiled at the sight of all these people try their hardest. It's fine. Because I have my incredible system. Commentary from her. You don't have a system, you have to work just as hard if not harder than them or you'll just die. Apostrophe. Stark was one of the first people to approach the entrance of the city ruins, and entering it. As he passed through the dungeon entrance, it felt like his consciousness was slapped. And when he opened his eyes, he found himself in another world. The sun was burning bright in the sky, and instinctively, Stark looked up to check it out. But, the sun wasn't normal, not at all. It didn't have its orangish color. Instead, it was completely black, casting not its usual light on the world below, but an eerie darkness that made it just enough to see. His perception skill automatically activated as he looked at it. Black sun, capable of transforming dead humans into monsters. The power of its rays slowly but surely infects others, so it is recommended to always be on the lookout. Tip: look for a bonfire every now and then. Stark then switched his attention from the sun to his surroundings, and he immediately understood why it was called the city ruins. The entire area was covered in broken and decaying buildings, as well as abandoned cars, the ruins of a once great city. Piles of rubble and debris filled the streets, and the air was heavy with the stench of decay and the absence of life. Shadows hid all sorts of lurking threats, and the silence was broken only by the distant sound of battle. Stark took a deep breath, feeling the tension building in his chest. This was the first challenge he would need to face in this world, and no one would be here to help him, so he would need to solo this dungeon by himself. This meant more danger, but also more rewards and experience point, and he was ready to take that risk. With a determined nod, Stark set off into the ruins, his eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs of danger. He was getting ready to encounter his first monster and see if he was truly capable of dealing with all the shit in this world. After all, fighting a human was one thing, but fighting monsters with unexplainable appearances was something he had only seen in novels. It didn't take long for him to encounter his first ever monster in this world though. As he walked through the seemingly empty streets of the ruined city, he heard noise in front of him, and suddenly, 3 creatures appeared from behind a corner. Name: Decaying Corpses, Black Sun Curse, Level 6, HP 850, Strength 32, Stamina 192, they don't get tired easily, Speed 8, Defense 28, Skills, Infect, Bite, apostrophe 850 horsepower. Stark repeated, his eyebrows raised. It was extremely tough even for a level 6 monster, not that he knew anyway. Plus, the thing that worried him the most was the fact that he could only use his fists as weapons, meaning he would have to approach them no matter what. Thankfully enough, their speed was extremely low, and their defense not so great either. And so without hesitation, he focused his thoughts on the battle ahead. Domination, activate. He whispered the words, and suddenly the same aura that had aided him against Daniel surrounded his legs and hands. Not wanting to waste time, Stark dashed at the monsters, and before they could even attack. Slan -928. He hit the first one in the head, causing it to die with a single attack. It was an instant kill. Surprised, Stark backed away to look at his fist again. It was still surrounded by that aura, but it shone brighter than before, a sign that he was starting to dominate the battle. Without any delay, Stark charged at the remaining 2 decaying corpses. They were caught off guard by his sudden attack, and the aura in his fists dealt massive damage to both of them. -953. -856. Stark punched them in quick succession, eliminating the last 2 monsters with ease. The air was heavy and still, the devastated street silent once more. Stark examined the bodies of the decaying corpses, his eyes narrowing as he noticed a strange symbol inscribed on them. What is this? Some sort of mark left by the curse of the Black Sun? He wondered, his curiosity piqued, but eventually didn't put much more thought into it as he would need to keep going if he didn't want to get ambushed. You have slain 3 decaying corpses LVL 6, gained 1800 exp, phew. He sighed, it would have been devastating if he failed to even defeat a single one of the weaker monsters, but thankfully he was able to deal massive amounts of damage, almost crossing the 1000 mark. He continued his way through the streets as he was officially now in the area where monsters would constantly appear to stop him. He also felt the rays of the Black Sun on him, but luckily they didn't seem to affect him, yet. On his way, he encountered more decaying corpses and even some cursed dogs. The same symbol was on them when he inspected their dead bodies. You have slain 2 decaying corpses LVL 6, gained 1200 exp. You have slain 4 cursed dogs LVL 7, gained 2884 exp. Each of these horrifying creatures were extremely fast, enough to almost take Stark by surprise the first time he encountered them, but thankfully enough he was able to avoid them quite easily when his eyes were on them. Their HP was also lower than the decaying corpses, allowing him to eliminate them in one hit too. Your level has increased to level 3, granting you 1 skill point and boost in stats. Experience, 1,355 out of 10,000. He hadn't paid much attention to it before, but he realized he had gotten something called skill points, and so he wanted to check what they were. Skill points, description, able to allocate 1 to upgrade a skill by 1 level. Once used, it is impossible to get them back, so make sure to use them wisely. In inventory, too. He thought, well, I guess can try that. But right as he was about to try, he heard a heart-wrenching scream behind him. Chapter 12, Defeating Monsters. Stark hurriedly turned around, his heart racing as he saw a woman, her clothing tattered and torn, pinned down and attacked by 5 decaying corpses. Apostrophe. Stark stared at her as the monsters ate her up. It wasn't because he didn't want to save her that he didn't move, but because he knew it was already over. Above the girl's head was the text, Black Sun Curse, meaning that she was already infected. And as predicted, only a few seconds after she was pinned down and the monsters got up, the woman's skin turned a dark green color, and her expression became the same as the others. She immediately got up and joined the group as they all noticed Stark's presence and dashed at him, although very slowly. Holy shit, isn't there too many of them? He had only fought groups of 3, 4 monsters, but 6 was a battle he didn't expect. The reality of the situation hadn't struck him yet, but he had just witnessed one of the other students among the group of new classifiers get killed and transformed into one of these beasts, something anyone would be terrified of if they saw it up close. Yet Stark just readied his fists. The only thing in his mind was the battle ahead, not even caring about what happened in front of his eyes. Or maybe it was because he was too dense and that his priorities weren't set straight. In the end, it didn't matter. Mundo, Black Sun Curse, level 9, HP 950, Strength 22, Stamina 52, Speed 23, Defense 42, Skills, Infect, Fight. Stark, once using his perception skill on her, noticed that her stats were much different than the other decaying corpses, possibly because she was an actual human transformed by the Black Sun instead of an already made monster. Almost feels like I'm about to kill a real girl. Stark squinted his eyes, but his determination didn't falter. After all, he didn't know about the duel's deathless type when he fought Daniel, fully expecting him to die. Stark's domination power came from the fact he was confident, determined, and that he would dominate his battles. A simple disorienting thought like this meant his power would be reduced. With a furrowed brow, Stark focused on the task ahead, calculating the timing of his attacks to maximize efficiency. He dashed at the 6 decaying corpses, his fists glowing with the same power that had helped him dominate the other fights. It was extremely reckless to fight literal zombies that could transform you into one of them with a single bite of their mouths with your fists, but he didn't have any other choice. He jumped in the air and smashed the transformed girl's head with both his fists. -1249. Her head was crushed by the attack, and she immediately fell to the ground. Rest in peace, Stark nodded before using the girl's body as a jump pad toward a second monster. -938. -858. -873. After a few hits, Stark was able to eliminate every monster that stood in his way. By the end, he whipped the sweat off his forehead and smiled as it looked like he was actually capable of taking on this much monsters if he managed his movements well enough. You have slain 5 decaying corpses LVL 6, gain 3000 exp. You have slain El Mundo, cursed, LVL 9, gain 1282 exp. Experience, 5637 out of 10,000. He surveyed the street once more, picking up on the faint whispers of darkness in the air, but thankfully enough, there wasn't anyone around here anymore, no monsters, no humans. It had been around 10 minutes since he entered the rift after all, so most people were still probably forming parties. Stark planned to move on to the next area, but right as he was about to, he noticed a faint glow beside the decaying corpses' bodies. Apostrophe. He was cautious, but when he saw something shining, Stark's brain immediately knew he wanted to check it out. Approaching the source of the faint glow, he noticed it coming from a staff on the ground. It was emitting a faint blue light, unlike the dark aura that lingered around the decaying corpses. Curiosity piqued, he picked up the magic staff, using perception to inspect it. Item: low-level magic staff. Type: staff. Class: Magus. Tier: common. Required level: 7. Quality: bad. Attributes: none. Special perks: none. Stark observed the staff, and after reading about the information, he wanted to try something. He held the staff with both hands, and then tried to pour his aura at the tip. But right as he tried to do that, "You cannot use this weapon with your current class," such a panel appeared in front of him. Stark frowned and looked at the staff in his hands, then sighed. "I guess I can just sell it, I hope." Spatial inventory, he whispered these words, and suddenly, a void appeared beside him. It seemed a bit small to fit the staff, but once he tried to put it inside, the hole grew in size, enough to accommodate for staff's size. Instantly, the staff disappeared into his spatial inventory, and Stark let out a breath of relief. It seemed like monsters were able to occasionally drop items, although it was rare, and the fact the human girl was just transformed increased his odds of getting her staff. Stark had no idea about the value of any of these items, but it didn't matter, he would take everything with him. Whether it was useful or not to his fights wasn't important as he could sell all of it. Money was a big problem for him as he didn't have any. And just like, Stark kept moving. He was more advanced than almost all others participants of the City Ruins Rift. Going solo was risky, but it seemed like he was one of the only ones who went alone that survived. All others were too weak and at a disadvantage against this many monsters. Oh yeah. The skill points. He immediately remembered about his idea before being interrupted by the group of decaying corpses, and so he opened his status window. Name: Stark Heart Souls. Level: 3. Health: 100 out of 100. Bloodline: human. Class: domination. Info about class: the first domination trial is coming soon, be ready. What the? He raised his eyebrows. This wasn't here before, but quickly moved on. Talent: chosen 1. Attributes: strength, 9, speed, 8, soul, 21, stamina, 11, defense, 7, skills, spatial inventory, class wheel, perception, domination LV1, focus LV1. I can only upgrade domination and focus it seems. He was walking in the empty streets, now used to the eeriness of the ruined city. You have slain Black Rat LV7, gain 620 exp. He found a rat as big as a human in his way, and just hit its ugly face once to kill it. Welp, time to actually use the skill points now. Skill points, 2 available. Chapter 13, New Skill and Upgrades. Stark hesitated for a moment, pondering how to allocate his skill points. He could upgrade domination all the way to level 3, or maybe upgrade both domination and focus to level 2. In the end, he decided that it didn't matter as he would get more skill points as he leveled up. You have upgraded domination to level 2, you have upgraded focus to level 2, with that, he should be slightly stronger than before. Note: skills can only be upgraded up to level 10, without a skill upgrade stone. The rest depends on stats, class, weapon and the strength of the skill. Domination should be a really powerful skill. Shouldn't it? After all, he was able to do more than 1000 points of damage if he hit the enemy right. Although he had no real way to know if it was more than others since he had only ever seen Daniel deal 357 to him. You have slain 2 decaying corpses LVL 6, gained 1200 exp. You have slain Cursed Dog LVL 7, gained 721 exp. You have slain 2 Black Rats LVL 7, gained 1240 exp. Experience: 8798 out of 10,000. Soon enough, Stark found himself in the level 10 area. There were no signs of life there either, just broken buildings and solitary, twisted trees that had been bent by the ravages of time. With a deep breath, he stepped forward and the world around him turned darker than previously. The rays of the black sun seemed to be hitting harder here. The monsters are stronger and more aggressive. This explanative text appeared right as he entered, making him wonder if he shouldn't turn back and wait for other people to come as to increase his odds of safety. But no. Get yourself together, Stark, these fools don't believe in you, and they would probably sacrifice you if it came to it. He slapped both his cheeks, and took a step toward the level 10 area of the city ruins. As Stark continued his journey through the rift, he couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. There weren't any decaying corpses, cursed dogs or black rats in here anymore, making it weird as he had gotten used to these fellas. It didn't take long for the first creature to appear though. As he passed in between two giant buildings, something grabbed his legs. -103. Ouch. He looked to see that a shadowy hand coming out of the ground had grabbed him and hurt his legs, some blood pouring out from them. Name, Shadow Figure, Level, 10, HP, 1100, Strength, 82, Stamina, 12, Speed, 105, Defense, 12, Skills, Grab, Shadow Step. Seeing that its defense was extremely low, Stark took his chance and focused his aura around his leg before kicking the shadow in the face. The shadow figure was a monster that could hide in between shadows to take classifiers by surprise. You would usually be able to see them because of their bright yellow eyes that were easily noticeable, but unfortunately enough, Stark had no experience so he didn't pay attention. And as Stark attacked the shadow with his foot, -1427. The shadow vanished once it was killed. Holy shit, that's a lot of damage. You have slain Shadow Figure LV10, gained 1300 exp, and right afterward, he was surrounded by the familiar golden glow. Your level has increased to level 4, granting you 1 skill point and boost in stats, experience, 98 out of 15,000. Stark was happy he was finally able to upgrade his level and become stronger, but the itch in his leg reminded of him of the sudden attack he had just survived. HP, 147 out of 250. His level was upgraded, and his HP also went up. But it seemed like he wasn't actually able to refill his health without the proper skills, items, meaning he would need to be extra careful. You have upgraded Domination to level 3. He also didn't waste time and immediately upgraded his Domination skill in case he forgot. And so he kept going, his journey inside the dungeon far from over as the goal of all the participants was to defeat the boss. The person that would defeat the boss would obviously get the dungeon rewards while also keeping their identity hidden, since except if they were in a party, no one would really know. Until then, everyone would have to keep fighting in the dungeon and risk their lives. The test not over, it is confirmed that its boss was dead. You have slain Shadow Figure LV10, gained 1300 exp. You have slain Decaying Corpse LV10, gained 1100 exp. You have slain Ghoul LV11, gained 1500 exp. Your level has increased to level 5, granting you 1 skill point and boost in stats, experience, 550 out of 25,000. Before long, Stark was able to reach level 5, enveloped by the familiar golden glow after killing more enemies. Without a second thought, he decided to open up his panel to check his stats. Level 5, HP, 297, 400, Bloodline, Human, Class, Domination. Info about class: the first Domination trial is coming soon, be ready. Talent, Chosen One. Attributes: Strength, 17, Speed, 14, Mind/Soul, 26, Stamina, 18, Defense, 12, Skills, Spatial Inventory, Class Wheel, Perception, Domination level 3, Focus level 2. Stark's stats had indeed improved, but what interested him the most was that he had unlocked a new skill. Level 5 reached. Please pick a card. 3 different cards appeared in front of him, the 3 of them painted with a gray color, their front impossible to see from his position, and although he tried to turn around, the cards would obviously just turn as well, making it impossible to check what they contained. Each of these cards hold a skill. Choose one randomly. I'll have to try and get a mirror to see if I can cheat the system. Stark's first thought as he saw the 3 cards was to find a way to cheat his way to success. But realizing it wasn't possible for now, he took a deep breath and decided to take a chance. He reached out and picked one of the cards at random. As he did, the card flipped over to reveal its front, showing a picture of a glowing fist. Skill, Aura Smash. Type, Uncommon. Level, 1. Description: unleash a devastating punch that deals damage based on the amount of aura used. It is perfect for ranged enemies, and has a 30% chance to stun the target. Cooldown of 30 seconds between each use. Stark's eyes widened as he read the description. This could potentially be a game changer, especially if he was able to stun his enemies first, plus he was already beginning to think that fighting hands-to-hands with enemies that can infect him was bad. Below the skill description was some sort of stickman animation, the stickman which represented Stark focusing his aura in his hand before throwing a punch, and a giant crimson fist of aura launching itself towards some enemies. Aura Smash has been added to your skill list. I'll have to try that later, huh? He kept going, But of course not before using his skill point. You have upgraded Aura Smash to level 2, Chapter 14, The First Bonfire. You have slain Ghoul LV11, gained 1500 exp. You have slain Flesh Monster LV10, gained 1350 exp. Stark kept advancing through the level 10 area, able to kill most of the monsters in one hit. Only the flesh monsters posed a challenge, their sturdy bodies requiring 3 strikes to take them down due to their massive 2000 horsepower pool. He hadn't had the opportunity to use Aura Smash, yet since most enemies came alone, and he felt like it was a waste of time to try something that could reveal his location. It wasn't long until he found an opportunity though, because as he began turning the corner of a seemingly empty street, he saw a horde of monsters, at least 10 of them, just grouping around, looking at the sky, specifically at the Black Sunday apostrophe. Stark stared at the lot. Aura Smash, activate. One of his hands began glowing with a crimson aura, brighter than it ever had been before. Looks like using this skills makes it so that most of my aura focuses on this hand. He analyzed the skill as he used it, thinking about its weaknesses as using too much aura meant he was left defenseless if anything happened. His aura wasn't infinite after all. Luckily, it wasn't the case this time, and so he was able to test out his ability. Closing one of his eyes for precision, he adjusted his hand to aim in the middle of the horde of monsters. And although it took him some time since it was his first time using it, he finally unleashed his skill. He threw a punch, and a giant crimson fist of aura flew out of his hand, aimed towards the monsters. It followed a trajectory Stark perfectly calculated, and after a few seconds, the aura impacted with the group of monsters, falling in the middle of them as they were all watching the sky. Boom! A massive explosion of aura hit the monsters, and the damage numbers appeared soon enough. Minus 1938. Minus 1648. Minus 1293. The closer they were to the middle, the more damage they received, and by the end of the explosion, only one monster remained, a ghoul that had been a bit farther from the group. It was looking at its dead companions, confused as to how all of them died in an instant, but unable to move as it was stunned. HP, 539 out of 1350, status effect, stun. It also received a fair amount of damage, so it only took Stark one simple punch for the ghoul to fall to the ground. Jackpot, Stark thought to himself, impressed with the power of his new skill. Aura Smash was indeed a game changer, allowing him to attack massive groups of monsters and also be allowed to use it from afar, although it did take him a while to aim. Maybe it would become even stronger when his domination skill and aura would level up, but until then, he was satisfied. You have slain 3 ghouls LV11, gained 4500 exp. You have slain 4 decaying corpses LV10, gained 4400 exp. You have slain 2 black priests LV12, gained 3500 exp. Experience, 15,800 out of 25,000. He was secretly proud of himself for that. Wouldn't anyone be after growing stronger? But of course he didn't let it show on the outside, although there was nobody around. He kept going after that. But after focusing his attention far into the street ahead, he saw something weird. There was a giant fire burning. Huh? He approached it cautiously, not knowing what to expect. The fire was so large that it lit up the entire street, casting a warm and safe glow upon the surroundings, different from the darkness. A bonfire. He made sense of what it was when he was close enough. But his view wasn't his only sense that was being triggered right now, his ears too. He heard a faint music, and a voice singing in the direction of the bonfire. Humans? Are these guys dumb? They are going to attract monsters. He began running in the direction of the bonfire. It was only a kilometer in front of him, so not that far. You have slain a ghoul LV11, gained 1500 exp. You have slain a shadow figure LV10, gained 1300 exp. On his way, he had to kill some monsters, but they didn't even put a dent on him. He was now only 100 meters away from the bonfire. Lalling lalling, the music intensified as he approached, now able to hear another person sing alongside it. And when the fire of your heart burns, nothing will be left for them to take, only 50 meters. The light at the end is growing and it transcends everything I know. As he approached the 10 meters mark, the heat from the roaring bonfire licked at Stark's skin. He could feel the warmth enveloping him, creating a sense of safety and comfort that he had not felt in a long time. And suddenly, as if entering a different realm, Stark felt at ease for the first time. "Oi, looks like someone else joined us." One of the boys sitting on the ground next to the bonfire called out with a smile. His short brown hair was ruffled and a scar adorned his right eye. In his hands, he held a ukulele which he had been playing to lift the mood. Beside him sat another boy with black hair and a blank expression. He had been singing along with an unchanging expression this whole time, his magic staff resting beside him. Didn't expect someone else to come here so soon, and alone at that. The ukulele player nodded in agreement, almost as if he was acknowledging Stark's strength. "What is this?" Stark asked, confused. He had felt a shiver run down his spine once he approached the bonfire, a feeling of safety taking over him. It's weird that you don't know, but I might as well use my knowledge to help you. The brown-haired man got up and brushed off the dirt from his ass, then pointed at the bonfire. This thing is the halfway point of the rift. It serves as a landmark. Stark nodded. But that's not all, he smiled. You see that sun above you, right? The black sun? Yep, he nodded. The more you stay under it, the more cursed you are. And just as he said, when Stark thought about the black sun curse, a panel appeared in front of him. Black sun curse, 74%, but right as he saw that. Black sun curse, 73%, it's going down? The bonfire allows you to remove the black sun curse from your body, that's why the two of us are waiting. Oh well. I hope you don't mind if I join you then. Stark kneeled down to sit on the ground, then quickly noticed that there were several monsters beside them, so he immediately got up and prepared himself to fight. They won't attack, they can't attack when you are near the bonfire. The black-haired boy spoke for the first time. What's your name, by the way? The ukulele player asked. Stark thought for a second. Giving his real name wouldn't be beneficial, especially if they knew he was the Stark. Stalk, he answered on a whim. What a weird name. He laughed. The name's Kent, and the gloomy guy beside me is Bill. And just like that, Stark sat on the ground beside the bonfire, waiting for the curse of the black sun to go before he could continue. After all, Stark did not plan to stick together with anyone, he would take the boss by himself. Chapter 15, The Calm Before the Storm. Meanwhile, outside the city ruins, the blonde-haired girl that had helped Stark before had been waiting outside the city ruins for a bit, checking her surroundings and the people around as they all formed teams or sold items. Do you want to team with us, Lana? A group of girls, sparkles in their eyes, spoke. We are big fans and we can be of help. Lana dismissed them though. Sorry, I plan to go alone. Of course, that was a lie. She obviously had some life-saving items in hand to protect her in case of dangerous situations, so technically she wouldn't be alone, plus it would be great if she could meet someone to team up with, precisely someone that isn't annoying. The first face that wandered in her mind as she thought of that was Stark's, but she shook it off as she knew that Stark wasn't that strong, at least not strong enough to be at her level. And then she entered the city ruins, almost 30 minutes after Stark did, yet there were actually lots of people still outside. As she entered the ruins, she quickly noticed the presence of the black sun and read the panel that informed her about whatever it was doing to this place. Lana would usually have many bodyguards surrounding her, but in this situation she categorically refused. She would need to survive on her own at one point or another, so she couldn't be protected forever was what she said to her father. -224. -271. -182. She saw people fight monsters, some dealing good amount of damage, while others less. For their current level, the average damage that could be dealt was probably from 200 to 300, especially in this first dungeon, meaning it would take a few hits to kill each monster. Lana on the other hand. She was an archer. She pulled her bow out of her backpack, as well as some very well-crafted arrows, then pointed them at two decaying corpses LV6 that were alone, walking towards her. She fired 2 arrows at the same time, and then -938. -973. The 2 monsters fell, killed by a single attack. But it wasn't unexpected. Oh wow. She did 900 damage, she must be strong. That's Lana Moonless after all, she has overpowered equipment. Lana ignored such talk, after all, she had precisely ordered her father and family to not hand her anything that would give her an advantage, instead she had just an average bow with average arrows, although with better materials. The other reason this amount of damage wasn't surprising was because Lana was level 19, far exceeding the recommended level of this dungeon and most of the people in here. Also she had a very good talent. And so just like that, more and more people started pouring inside the city ruins rift, now fighting the monsters inside alongside their friends, teammates. Around the bonfire, Kent and Bill were extremely considerate. They didn't even ask Stark about his class or about why he didn't have a weapon with him. For them, as long as you came all the way here alone, it meant that you were strong. Are you guys teaming? Stark asked. Oh, no, Kent shook his head. I came here around 15 minutes ago. And only 5 minutes later did this guy come, he pointed at Bill. Doesn't that mean these guys met like 10 minutes ago then immediately began singing together? Stark wondered, but of course didn't say that out loud. Then you must already be cured from the Black Sun curse, aren't you? Stark continued. Why are you here? Kent grinned, clearly enjoying the conversation. Well, Stark, he said, using Stark's made-up name. Look to your right. Stark did as he was told, and in the distance he could see a wall of silver fog that took up the entire street, impossible to see beyond it. That's the entrance to the mini-boss area. Every classifier must traverse it and defeat the monster there, whether in group or solo. Kent pointed at it. We don't want to risk it as mini-bosses are stronger than normal enemies, so we're waiting for more people. Although these guys had the strength to come here all by themselves, making them almost equal to Stark in term of power, they were still not delusional enough to attempt to defeat a mini-boss by themselves. Stark grinned as in comparison to them, he was actually crazy enough to take on the challenge. Black Sun Curse, 0%, he was completely cured from the curse, but that's not all. HP, 400 out of 400, it seemed like the bonfire also had healing properties, allowing him to be healed. Almost feels like a checkpoint before a boss battle. Stark smiled. Unfortunately enough for me though, there are no second chances. After discussing with Kent and Bill a bit more, he decided that it was time. I think I'll go ahead by myself, he spoke, getting up from his seat. Kent and Bill looked at each other with widened eyes before looking back at Stark. Are you sure? I mean, this is basically suicide. I think I'll be fine. If I just sit around and wait for people to help me, then it wouldn't help me in the future. I'd rather risk my life and become stronger by myself, he shrugged as he left the bonfire space, now allowing monsters to sense and attack him. You have slain 3 decaying corpses LV10, gained 3300 exp. You have slain 2 cursed hounds LV11, gained 2900 exp. Seeing him fight up close, Kent and Bill were surprised. They had never heard of someone fight with their fists, even alchemists needed to use potions and items to fight after all. And yet the numbers that were displayed each time Stark hit an enemy were undeniable. Minus 1927. You have slain a ghoul LV11, gained 1500 exp. Right as he reached the edge of the giant silver fog wall, a golden glow enveloped his body. Your level has increased to level 6, granting you 1 skill point and boost in stats. Experience, 1,300 out of 35,000. He was ready to enter it, but right as he was about to, he heard a voice from behind. Good luck. Kent shouted, then gave him a thumbs up. I hope to see you another time, Stark. Stark grinned. He didn't know this guy either, but he couldn't deny he was interesting. Goodbye, he whispered before traversing the fog. You have entered the mini-boss area. There is no going back from here. Chapter 16, The Mini-Boss. Feathered Scourge. As Stark went inside the silver fog, he couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine as his vision was extremely obscured, yet every other sense of his was triggered. He could smell rot, he could feel an eerie aura around him, and he could hear the voices of tormented souls screaming for him to go back. Recommended level to attempt mini-boss, 15, warning. It is advised for you to go back, but Stark didn't care, and he pushed through the fog, traversing it after a few seconds and now able to see normally again. Holy. He opened his eyes, and took notice of his surroundings. He found himself in a desolate area filled with decaying corpses, the ground littered with bones and moss that seemed to have grown over everything. He was still in the ruined city as buildings were still around, but the overall atmosphere was different. Am I in the luxury district? The buildings looked more luxurious than before, and some abandoned jewelry and design clothes stores and could be seen. Level 15 area advanced district entered. Stark began walking through the district, looking around for any signs of monsters or of the mini-boss. Meanwhile, high above a building, a grotesque creature with jagged wings, sharp talons, and glowing eyes watched Stark's entrance into the district. It was the mini-boss, the Feathered Scourge, a demonic creature that ravaged the luxury district, feeding on the souls of the dead and twisting the environment to its liking. But do not be mistaken, it is also under the control of the Black Sunday below. Stark continued to explore the district, trying to ignore the growing sense of dread as he pushed forward. He had no idea what awaited him, but he was determined to face whatever came his way. And after a minute or two of that, the creature decided it was time to start the battle, thinking more people would come. The creature leaped silently towards Stark from the building, its wings giving it an incredible amount of speed, and its claws ready to kill the boy. What's that noise? Stark mumbled as he heard the small flapping of the wings, and instinctively looked up, just to see the giant creature coming at him from above. Holy shit. Focusing most of his aura around his legs, Stark used some last-second decision and jumped out of the attack's way. Crash. He had luckily been able to avoid the attack, but minus 382. Even that wasn't enough to stop him from being injured as the aftershock of the Scourge's smash attack managed to send him flying against a nearby building. HP, 118 out of 500. Fucking hell, one more attack and I'm done for. Stark immediately got up and readied his fists, intense aura pouring out from them as he analyzed his opponent. The mini-boss was at least 5 meters tall, had massive jagged white wings emerging from its back, a mouthless head with only yellow eyes looking down on him, and long legs and arms that could do a lot of damage to anyone who came in contact with them. Name, Feathered Scourge, Rift Mini-Boss, Level, 15, HP, 25,000, Strength, 281, Stamina, 738, Speed, 372, Defense, 182, Skills, Wing Dive, Faint Strike, Soul Siphon, Eye Curse, Hellfire, Divine Strike, Defense is low. That might be the key to beating it. It had an enormous amount of HP, and it would take Stark at least 13 hits to kill it, but the fact he would only attack with his fists against such an impossible opponent was terrifying. And yet, Stark just glared at the winged monster, determination in his eyes. He clenched his fists, determining his next move. His aura continued to pulsate around him, a testament to his unwavering resolve. The monster in return merely let out a guttural growl. It had no mouth, so kinda weird, the sound echoing throughout the abandoned district. It leaped towards Stark once more, its wings slicing through the air like knives. Stark timed his dodge perfectly, leaping backward as the wings whizzed past, leaving a trail of dark mist in their wake. Hellfire. But the monster used one of its skill as it passed through, making a pillar of fire emerge from the ground where Stark had just landed, forcing him to roll away to avoid the damage. Faint Strike. The Feathered Scourge lunged at Stark again with incredible speed, its claws glowing ominously. But Stark was ready, and he met the attack with a powerful counter-strike. He dodged the claws of the monster, and then... -2,182. Stark's fist connected solidly with the monster's face, the impact sending it reeling backwards. Phew. At least I know that I can deal good damage to it. I curse. The mini-boss looked down for a few seconds as it activated this powerful skill, then right as the skill reached its peak, it looked back at Stark, its piercing gaze on him. Holy! The sheer intense and overwhelming aura shook his entire body. But that was all, nothing else. The fear effect cannot be applied to someone with the domination class. It seemed like the Eye Curse skill made it so that the Scourge used its aura to scare off its opponents and deal the fear status effect to them, reducing their movements and accuracy. But it didn't work on Stark, and so the Scourge, believing that he was affected, lunged itself toward him again, using Faint Strike. But as expected, Stark avoided the attack as if everything was fine, and punched the mini-boss not once, but twice as it was taken aback. -4,920. He had dealt more damage than before, maybe because his confidence had gone up. Mini-boss HP, 17,898 out of 25,000, the winged creature, yet again taken aback by Stark's ability to avoid its attacks, growled again, this one more aggressive and louder than the last. And for the first time, his confidence as high as ever before, Stark was the one who attacked the mini-boss, rushing towards it. Faint Strike. The mini-boss tried to slice Stark in half, but yet again, the boy avoided the attack, punching the monster in the stomach in return as he wasn't tall enough to reach its head. -1,738. Seems like it still did a fair amount of damage. Soul Siphon. The Feathered Scourge's hand suddenly began glowing as if trying to grab onto Stark's soul. At that moment, Stark felt a shiver run down his spine. He knew this skill would be dangerous, and so he backed away, only able to punch it one more time. -1,837. You have been hit by Soul Siphon, draining attributes slowly for battle, Strength, 26.25.24. Even being close to Soul Siphon was enough to activate it, and now it wasn't his life that was being reduced, but his other stats. I need to end this quick before I do 1 damage per hit. Stark thought, feeling the aura around his hands shine brighter because of his determination. Chapter 17, Defeating the Feathered Scourge, Mini-Boss HP, 14,323 out of 25,000, it still had more than half of its life, while Stark on the other hand was 1 attack away from dying, 2 if he counts the Chosen One talent's perks, but he didn't know how it worked so he would rather not take his chances. Time to use this and hope. He looked at his hands, which were surrounded by that same crimson aura, and tightened them both. Aura Smash, activate. He reserved this skill for the perfect situation since the 30s cooldown was annoying, but what better situation than him being on the verge of death? Almost all of Stark's aura went into his right hand, making it shine brighter than it ever had before, even though in the face of death, Stark was still smiling, showing utmost confidence. The remainder of the aura on the other hand was still focused on his legs, and the reason for that was obvious. Stark began running in circles around the mini-boss. Him not moving at all for a while would obviously make the Scourge attack him after all. The mini-boss stared at Stark as he was running around it, its yellow shiny pupils following him. And then, it did the unthinkable. It flapped its wings gently, making it float a few centimeters in the air, then it put its 2 hands together, lifting them up at the sky. What the hell? Stark was still running in circles, trying to aim his fist at the mini-boss. Divine Strike. A golden text that announced the mini-boss's ultimate attack appeared above it, making Stark's eyes widen. And although the Feathered Scourge could only use Divine Strike once on a powerful enemy, it decided Stark was worth it. Immediately, Stark looked up at the sky to see a golden shiny halo above him, following him closely. It was shining so bright that even the people at the beginning of the city ruins were able to see it. "Hey, what's that?" someone asked. "A beam?" another answered. Lana on the other hand looked at the sky after eliminating another monster. Weird. Stark instinctively knew that he would die if it hit him, so he focused on his movements. And then, boom, a beam of divine light came hurtling toward him from the halo above. Stark dived forward before the beam could hit him, avoiding it by a strand of hair, and then continued running. The light beam was following him closely, and he knew that if even one of his fingers touched it, it was over. The mini-boss on the other hand was flapping its wing from left to right to avoid its own attack, meaning that it also wasn't immune. And this gave Stark an idea. Die. He threw his aura smash at the Scourge, and a giant crimson fist appeared as predicted, heading toward the mini-boss at incredible speed. It hit it directly, creating a massive explosion of aura. -5281. The amount of damage was not enough to kill the monster, but what Stark was praying for was. Enemy stunned, yes, the mini-boss was suddenly unable to flap its wings and fell to the ground, wondering why it couldn't move. Still followed by the Divine Strike, Stark began running toward the mini-boss, jumping right above it instead of hitting it, and the reason for that was because the halo was also heading toward the mini-boss. Instinctively, seeing its attack returned against it and because it couldn't move to avoid it, the Feathered Scourge deactivated Divine Strike, making the halo and golden beam disappear. But this was its biggest mistake. Bingo. Stark jumped behind the mini-boss and smashed its head with his aura-filled fists. -3718. The damage was incredible because Stark was absolutely dominating the battle now. And so what had to be done was done. -3829. And finally. -4273. Mini-boss HP, 0 out of 25,000, the feathery creature crumpled to the ground, the once glowing feathers now dull and lifeless. Stark took a moment to catch his breath, his heart pounding in his chest as he looked around at the wreckage of the battle. He had quite literally just beaten a boss to death. You have slain Feathered Scourge LVL 15, Rift Mini-Boss, gained 4000 exp, and soon after that panel came a familiar golden glow that surrounded his body. Your level has increased to level 7, granting you 1 skill point and boost in stats, and you have beaten the mini-boss without getting hit, no hit achievement, granting you a better equipment piece. Well, more like it's either I no hit that guy or I die. Stark looked at his hands, still glowing with the remains of the aura smash, and smiled. He had done it. He had defeated the Feathered Scourge, his first mini-boss in this treacherous world. Right on top of the Scourge's body appeared an item, his reward for the no-hit achievement, and so he grabbed it. It was a necklace. As Stark picked up the necklace that had materialized atop the defeated Feathered Scourge, a warm sensation spread through his body. The necklace was exquisitely crafted, with intricate designs etched into the metal and a radiant gem at its center that seemed to pulse with energy. Equipment, Soul Bearer's Embrace, Type, Necklace, Class, Domination, Tier, Rare, Required Level, 10, Quality, Good, Attributes, plus 20 Strength, plus 100 Health Point, Special Perk, grants the wearer the ability to absorb a very small percentage of damage dealt back as health. This was a necklace that required him a level 10 to use, but also the Domination class, meaning that only someone with this class would be able to use it. Maybe it's because the Domination class is the best that it's so overpowered. He frankly didn't know, but getting HP back sounded up. He clearly remembered reading about items and equipments back at the library, and so he listed what he knew. There are 8 tiers for each item: equipment piece/skill, common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, mythical, godly, immortal. And as for the quality, there are 7 categories: bad, normal, good, exquisite, perfect, artifact, unbeatable. But for now, he couldn't use that necklace since it was restricted to only people that were level 10 to use. Spatial inventory, he mumbled, and the inventory void opened next to him. Then he put the necklace inside. See you later, little necklace, when I am capable of using you. When Stark beat the boss, the giant wall of silver fog disappeared, meaning that Kent and Bill, who had been looking at it from afar, were now allowed to pass through. Holy shit, he actually did it alone. Kent was astonished. Bill on the other hand looked at the disappearing fog with a blank expression. He was surprised too, but also very interested in stock. Chapter 18, Leveling Up. I guess that's it for now, Stark mumbled as he killed the mini-boss and did everything that was needed to do. You have upgraded Aura Smash to level 3, you have upgraded Domination to level 4, He used the 2 skill points he had that were available after reaching level 7, and then he kept going. He of course noticed that the silver fog was gone, meaning that more people would be able to get to this area, but he didn't care. He had gotten the loot for himself. Current level, LV7, experience, 6,300 out of 50,000, my god, I wonder just how much people at the higher levels must have grinded, especially since this is a beginner level dungeon. At the end, Stark just wanted to get to level 10 to be able to use the necklace and to challenge the boss. He wasn't dumb, and the fact he almost died against the mini-boss was a testament of how difficult the real boss will be. Because even if in the end the rift had rewarded him for completing it without taking a singular hit, he had been completely forced to that with a little above 100 horsepower to spare. And now, he had moved to another area, the advanced district of the City Ruins, which is a level 15 area. The rays of the Black Sun are calling your name, their cursed nature hitting harder than ever before. Move fast or it will be too late. Enemies in this area only have one idea in mind, killing you. Do not spare any of them. Didn't plan to do that. Stark smiled, and as he turned the corner of a luxurious street, he found himself in front of the first group of monsters, other than the feathered scourge, he would encounter in this area. Name, Shadow Wolves, level, 13, HP, 2500, Strength, 79, Stamina, 132, Speed, 271, Defense, 92, Skills, Shadow Bite, Quick Step, Menacing Eyes. These wolves were swift and vicious, their red eyes locking onto some flesh they were eating as they bared their sharp, blackened teeth. Their entire body was covered in a black matter that took over their fur, and Stark could only guess it was the Black Sun curse that changed them this much. It was a group of 6, and looking at their stats, they seemed to be extremely fast, although their strength and defense in contrast were low. Or a smash. Stark instinctively mumbled the name of the skill, and his right hand started glowing immensely again. He threw his crimson fist at the wolves, and boom, minus 3,618. Minus 3,238. Minus 2,787. 3 were killed by the attack, 1 was stunned and received more than half its life, and the other 2. They avoided the attack. Wait, what? Stark had not expected them to be able to do that, but 2 of the shadow wolves had seen the fist coming at them, and began running towards him. Quick Step. They used that skill to immensely increase their speed, and then Shadow Bite. The 2 lunged at Stark at the same time, their eyes still glowing with that red fury, and their fur's weird structure leaving dark aura behind. But Stark remained calm. Focus. He activated the skill, and suddenly he could see the wolf's movements better than before, now able to see their trajectory a few microseconds before they attacked. And that was all that was needed for him to avoid the attack and not be instantly killed. Wish he avoided the first wolf, and punched the second in the jaw with his aura-filled fists. Minus 2,162. It wasn't enough to kill it, but the sheer damage Stark had caused it made it so that the wolf was stunned. Go meet your friend, he laughed as he grabbed 2 of the wolf's legs while still midair and threw its body with incredible strength toward the other one he avoided. Minus 628. Minus 1,293. The shadow wolf died upon impact with its companion, while the other one received more than half of its life with this strike. It tried to launch itself at Stark again, but he just kicked it in the stomach. Minus 1,728. Now only 1 shadow wolf remained, the one that was stunned and extremely injured. Stark slowly approached it, almost walking and taking his time. On the other hand, the monster could see the human approach, a wide smile on his face. Stark was only a few centimeters in front of the wolf now, able to punch it whenever he wanted. In response, the wolf looked at the human and activated its 3rd skill in a last-ditch effort to survive. Menacing Eyes. Its pupils and eyes started glowing more brightly with that crimson aura, trying to scare off Stark. But the fear effect cannot be applied to someone with the domination class, and so Stark just stood there, unaffected. The wolf growled, now able to move its mouth since the stun effect was going away, and it roughly translated to shit. Minus 2,719. Stark kicked it in the face, and it died. You have slain 6 shadow wolves LV13, gained 1440 XP, holy. Stark was bewildered, he had gotten so much EXP on these enemies even though he just took most of them by surprise. Experience, 20,700 out of 50,000, the amount needed each level keeps getting bigger and bigger. I wonder just how much do I need to grind for level 10. There was only one more area to go through after the advanced district before eventually reaching the boss of the rift, and Stark could confidently confirm that he was probably the most advanced person inside the dungeon as beside Kent and Bill, who had stayed behind, he met no one else. He checked the wolves' bodies for anything, but unfortunately, no piece of equipment had dropped. After all, these things were pretty rare. What about that Black Sun Curse? He wondered as he continued walking in the direction he was following. Black Sun Curse, 48%, holy shit, it's growing faster than before, although not unexpected. You have slain Scorth Businessman LVL 14, gained 2100 EXP, you have slain Underground Parasite LVL 12, gained 1750 EXP, you have slain Motherbird LVL 14, gained 2500 EXP. Your level has increased to level 8, granting you 1 skill point and boost in stats, experience, 1793 out of 60,000. Your level has increased to level 9, granting you 1 skill point and boost in stats, experience, 5,720 out of 75,000. Phew. Took me at least an hour to level up, killing this many monsters is beginning to be easy, although it takes time. Stark wiped the sweat off his forehead as he looked at his status window, many monster corpses around him. Level 9, health, 118 out of 950, bloodline, human, class, domination, info about class, the first domination trial is coming really soon, be ready, you will suffer. Talent, chosen 1, attributes, strength, 42, speed, 54, mind/soul, 61, stamina, 81, defense, 68, skills, spatial inventory, class wheel, perception, domination level 4, focus level 3, aura smash level 4. I guess it's better than last time, he smiled. Chapter 19, the city outskirts. Most people were now inside the city ruins, rift, fighting their way through the level 5 area. Watch out. Help me out here. People could only form parties of 5 inside the rift, and after doing so, they would be allowed to share experience points between each other as long as they participated in the kill, making it safer to level up. No one could really know what the hell was happening further inside the rift, so everyone just focused on themselves. Where is that Stark fucker? Daniel entered the rift 45 minutes after Stark, rushing his way through the level 5 area and reaching the level 10 one with his squad. We saw him enter the rift at the beginning, so he should be here. One of Daniel's companions spoke, a spear in his hand as he was also part of the warrior class. Hahaha, that fucker got lucky yesterday, and now he is probably already dead. Daniel nodded. As for him, and probably most people, it was impossible for Stark to get past the first area. He probably became one of those monsters, -728. -827. He eliminated a monster that came his way, then looked around him, noticing all the other people that were fighting. Lana on the other hand was also in the level 10 area, currently extremely close to Daniel's group as they were right next to her. So annoying. She groaned while shooting 2 arrows to kill a monster nearby. Instinctively, Daniel looked to his right as he saw the high amount of damage being dealt by Lana, and noticed her blonde hair, beautiful face, and spectacular body. Nobody knew it, but Daniel had a massive obsession over Lana, always trying to please her and approach her, but she would always reject him. After all, Lana was used to such attempts from men who thought they had a chance with her. Hey Lana, he tried to approach her, but sensing his presence, Lana immediately began running, acting like she spotted another monster. Oh. Well, I'm sure she'll succumb at one point or another. Of course she will, any girl would dream of being with you, the Pridal family name is extremely famous after all, one of Daniel's companions reassured him, making him grin. And it was at this exact moment that Stark defeated the mini-boss. Suddenly, everyone stopped, a golden panel appearing in front of them. The mini-boss Feathered Scourge was defeated by Redacted. You can now advance further inside the dungeon. Daniel, Lana, and everyone else that were inside the dungeon read the text with shocked eyes. Already? Was what they all thought. After all, even their teachers predicted it would take at least 5 hours before the mini-boss was defeated, and yet in less than an hour it was already down? Probably some powerful group that rushed through the dungeon? Maybe it's a hidden high-ranked classifier. Or one of the solo players that went first. Such theories appeared among all classifiers that were still fairly at the start or almost middle point of the dungeon. But what they all knew was that, whoever had defeated the Scourge must be pretty damn strong. This is how dungeons in this world work. Once an achievement is made, it is broadcasted for everyone to know, except they wouldn't know the identity of who did it. Only Kent and Bill, who were 2 of those strong solo players, were aware of the identity of the mini-boss killer, but even they believed that Stark was actually named Stalk since he lied to them. And just like this, the stage was set, and people began fighting through the monsters faster in hope of reaching the level 15 area and fight the boss too. Also they needed to take advantage of such an opportunity to level up. Stark, unaware of the panel that informed everyone of what he did, continued walking through the advanced district. And soon enough, he found himself in front of the last area of the dungeon. Oh yeah, before I forget. He mumbled, checking out his available skill points. Skill points, 1 available, Almost forgot to use it, better be safe than sorry. You have upgraded domination to level 5. His domination skill was now at the halfway point as the limit for skills was level 10, at least until the user leveled up enough, and then the limit would increase, or by using an item, and that meant... Huh? His body was suddenly being surrounded by a crimson aura. It was not only around his hands and feet anymore, but also his head, torso, legs. You have gone far and upgraded the domination skill. Your aura was massively increased as a reward, and you are now capable of using it around your body as a sort of protective shield. Holy shit. Stark smiled. His HP was extremely low, and his journey since the beginning was a giant no-hit challenge since even one attack would kill him. And now? Can I actually absorb some damage now? He wondered, eager to use that new ability of his, but also knowing that he couldn't take any risks. Welp. I'll see when the time is right. He took a step forward, and now was in the final area of the rift. Entered level 15 area. City outskirts. The atmosphere switched completely. It was already dark and twisted in the advanced district, but the last area was on another level. The buildings were replaced by shabby old houses. Menacing eyes could be seen from every broken window, and the air was thick with tension. The Black Sun has noticed and acknowledged you. It will now try everything in its power to stop you. Classifier. Good luck. The panel was dark, mimicking the sinister darkness of the empty streets. Current level, LV9, experience, 12,810 out of 75,000. If this is a beginner-level dungeon, I wonder just how bad the higher-level ones are. People in this world must have a thick skull. He said that, but in the end still began walking through the dark outskirts of the city ruins. As he navigated the desolate streets, Stark's acute perception picked up on subtle movements in the shadows. Yet even noticing all these creatures and eyes on him, nothing came out of a corner to stop him or attack him. For now. And right after taking another step, another unexpected panel came interrupting Stark in his journey. Black Sun Curse, 90%, warning. Get to a bonfire before it is too late. The darkness is consuming you, apostrophe. Stark sighed, the curse percentage had gone up so fast he didn't even take the time to check, and now he was at great risk of being turned into one of these things. Going backward was not a solid option either since he would probably be infected before it happened. So his only choice was to keep going forward, speedrunning his way through the monsters that would try to kill him. Chapter 20, The Elite Monster, 1. Stark pushed through the dark and ominous city outskirts, the curse of the Black Sun looming over him like a shadow. Every step he took felt heavier as the darkness threatened to consume him. The once quiet streets now echoed with the sounds of his own heartbeat, racing in his ears. Apostrophe. And even then, the aura around his hands and legs didn't falter, still shining brightly, a proof that his determination hadn't been moved by the circumstances. He reached a street with many abandoned small houses, the ones around him less out of shape than the others. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the desolate streets, and then, crash! A massive amount of monsters came out of the windows, their eyes glowing with a bright red aura that indicated they were ready to attack. 1.2.4.6.10.14 He counted them. Wait, 14? Just looking at their appearances, Stark could notice that it was the same type of monster all over, meaning they were the ones in control of this area. Name, Gloomstalkers, Level, 14, HP, 2,500, Strength, 102, Stamina, 391, Speed, 72, Defense, 271, Skills, Infect, Gloom, Mallet Smash, Lengthen. Their bodies were completely white, 2 meat mallets replacing their arms. The mallets took the form and white texture of their hands, making them blend perfectly, and red eyes that shone in the darkness. These creatures were utterly disturbing, something straight out of a horror movie. Their sheer number was surprising, and although their speed made them go extremely slowly towards Stark, it seemed like they enjoyed tormenting their victims by slowly watching them tremble in fear. Stark positioned himself for combat, his fists in front of his face and his aura ready to protect him. He was completely surrounded from all directions. But then, the Gloomstalkers suddenly stopped as they were a few meters away from reaching Stark, and they began looking up, not toward the Black Sun, but toward the roof of a nearby abandoned house. Apostrophe. Stark wondered what the hell was happening, and he looked at the direction the monsters were watching. Just to see. Nothing? It was completely dark, stopping him from seeing anything beyond that point. What the fuck? He didn't have the time to finish his sentence because suddenly, a figure stepped out from the darkness, their form cloaked in tattered robes that billowed ominously in the wind. The figure's eyes gleamed with a dangerous light as they locked gazes with Stark. Aw shit. Here we go again. Name, Outskirts Second Leader, Elite, Level, 15, HP, 12,000, Strength, 172, Stamina, 581, Speed, 461, Defense, 615, Skills, Summon, Dark Fog, Soul Drain, Cursed Domain, Shadow Magic. Areas have bosses too now. Stark pondered. After all, this guy had the elite title, and more HP, stats than any other monster he had met until now other than the Feathered Scourge. The outskirts second leader was wearing a massive dark cloak that stopped anyone from seeing its body, and a white smiley face mask to hide its face. It also had a black staff in hand, one emitting an eerie aura and a ball of void spinning around at the edge. Seeing their leader arrive, the Gloomstalkers immediately resumed walking, and the boss just sat down at the edge of the house's roof, watching its minions kill the human. The Gloomstalkers closed in on him slowly, their eerie white bodies moving like specters in the darkness. As the first Gloomstalker lunged towards him with a menacing swing of its mallet arm, Stark swiftly dodged to the side, feeling the rush of air as the attack narrowly missed him. In response, he punched it back in the head. -3192. Its body immediately turned to dust. Using that momentum, Stark launched himself towards the next Gloomstalker, delivering a barrage of punches and kicks with precision and power. The creatures fell one by one, disintegrating into ash as his attacks landed. Despite their overwhelming numbers, Stark's determination burned brighter than ever, fueling his every move. By the end of his rampage, all the Gloomstalkers had died, and the leader was still watching from the roof. Summon. It lifted its staff in the air, and suddenly, more Gloomstalkers started appearing from the ground and windows. Is that an infinite EXP generator? Stark smiled. He was actively quite tempted to keep going and grind, but he knew he would get tired eventually, plus his time was counted because of the Black Sun curse. Aura smash, he mumbled as his fist started glowing with that crimson aura. And then he threw it at the unsuspecting leader, who thought it was safe up there if Stark only used his fists. -2312. Its defense was very high, so the damage was reduced a ton, but it was still a good amount. Taken aback, the leader was sent flying backward, and once it came back at the edge, it had a dark aura around its body and staff, showing signs it was gonna attack. Black fog. A thick, inky fog began to swirl around the outskirts leader, enveloping the area in darkness. Stark could barely see his own hand in front of his face as the fog crept closer, threatening to suffocate him. God damn it, his senses were on high alert in case a Gloomstalker was close, but it seemed like they couldn't see either. -3261. Navigating through the fog, he would occasionally find some Gloomstalkers he killed, and also had to avoid some others before they could hit him. One singular touch of their mallets would probably send him flying after all. And so after 30 seconds of that, aura smash. He hurled his right fist again in the direction the leader was in previously. He used his aura as a landmark toward where to aim, and this time landed it on the leader's legs. -1937. The boss roared in pain, and then, losing balance since Stark had aimed for the legs, it fell forward toward the street. Thud. -728. It received damage because of the fall, but it was still relatively fine. Not able to see anything because of the fog, the leader deactivated that skill, and after a few seconds, the mist cleared, revealing the outskirts second leader struggling to stand back up. Dozens of monsters now surrounded Stark, and the leader was pointing its staff at him too. "You're close to me now." Finally a fair fight, he smiled while positioning his hands. Shadow magic. The leader's staff began glowing with an eerie aura, and the ball of void at the edge of it also started growing in size. And thus, the final battle before the real boss of the dungeon began. Chapter 21, The Elite Monster, 2. Stark felt the weight of the impending battle settle on his shoulders as he faced off against the outskirts leader. The leader's eyes bore into Stark, a silent challenge passing between them. As the first tendrils of shadow magic began to curl towards him, Stark knew he had to act fast. Looking at him from all nearby windows, and surrounding him completely were dozens upon dozens of Gloomstalkers. How are the other people supposed to beat these things? He wondered. After all, he was confident in his strength compared to all the other students, yet here he was struggling this much against an area boss. Shadow magic. Arrows made out of darkness began forming around the second leader, and then hurtled towards Stark. With a swift movement, he dodged the incoming tendrils of darkness and closed the distance between him and the outskirts second leader in a flash. With a powerful leap, Stark aimed a devastating punch directly at the leader's chest. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the air, causing even the Gloomstalkers to stagger back in surprise. -3618. The damage was incredible. The leader staggered backward, its cloak billowing around it as it struggled to regain its balance. Summon. It summoned more Gloomstalkers from the ground in front of it to protect itself from Stark's attacks. Seizing the opportunity, Stark followed up with a series of lightning-fast strikes, each blow landing with precision and force against the monsters, not even letting them get out of the ground. -3,739. -2,638. -2,947. Forced to back away, Stark made sure that nothing was behind him. Area boss HP, 3,405 out of 12,000, 1 or 2 more hits. Stark thought. His confidence was at peak, and the leader looked extremely injured, struggling to even stay in place or summon more Gloomstalkers. -3,718. -3,918. -4,183. Each Gloomstalker that tried to attack him was met by an instant punch that made it turn into dust. None of them were capable of touching Stark, even with their numbers. Realizing that, most of the minions just stood there, not even moving anymore, knowing it was futile to even try. It seemed like they had a conscience of their own even while being controlled by the leader. And that's when it happened. Beyond the smiley face mask the second leader was wearing, Stark noticed dark and hostile pupils, glowing with a purplish aura. Curse domain. A sudden surge of dark energy emanated from the leader, enveloping the entire area in a malevolent aura of darkness. Stark felt a chill run down his spine as his movements slowed, the shadows seeming to constrict around him, sapping his strength with each passing second. The Gloomstalkers that remained standing seemed revitalized, their attacks gaining a dangerous edge under the influence of the curse domain. You are in a cursed domain, defeat the enemy boss before it is too late. All enemies receive a stat boost inside the domain. Struggling against the oppressive magic, Stark gritted his teeth and focused on maintaining his resolve. Shadow magic. The second leader didn't waste time and summoned 3 darkness arrows again, launching them at Stark. His movements were reduced, and the arrows were faster than before, but focus still allowed him to see them coming. He avoided 1. He avoided 2. He couldn't avoid the 3rd. Sensing that, Stark decided to focus most of his aura around his chest, in the area where the arrow was aimed at, in the hopes of stopping it. And -82. The damage he received was minimal as the arrow was stopped by the wall of aura before it could pierce him, meaning that this aura barrier truly worked. HP, 36 out of 950, critical condition, fuck that shit. Stark, realizing that he was one hit away from dying, focused all his aura into another aura smash. He kept avoiding darkness arrows all the while powering up his attack, and after a few seconds, go to hell, he punched the air, sending the crimson fist toward the second leader, who was unable to avoid it. -2,192. Its defense was higher because of the domain. But, enemy stunned, seizing the moment of weakness, Stark wasted no time. Channeling all his remaining strength and fury into a final, decisive strike, he launched himself at the stunned leader with a speed and power that seemed almost supernatural. I'm not stuck with you. He jumped in the air, in front of the leader's eyes as it was unable to move any of its limbs or staff. You are stuck with me. He punched it. -2,719. Area boss HP, 0 out of 12,000, the leader let out a final anguished cry as Stark's punch connected, shattering its remaining defenses and sending it crumbling to the ground. A deafening silence fell over the battlefield as the cursed domain dissipated, leaving only the sound of the wind rustling through the trees. All the Gloomstalkers surrounding Stark immediately also began turning to dust as they were all only kept alive by the outskirts' second leader's magic. And just like that, Stark was able to defeat that shitty boss. You have slain Outskirts second leader LV-15, Elite, gained 22000 XP. You have slain 22 Gloomstalkers LVL-14, gained 24,500 EXP, experience, 59,310 out of 75,000, not even enough to level up. He sighed but immediately began running nonetheless. Black Sun Curse, 95%, warning. You have slain Shadow Demon LV-14. Gained 2,300 EXP, you have slain Water Blob LV-13, gained 2,150 EXP, you have slain Crazy Archer LV-14, gained 2,200. Black Sun Curse, 96%, warning, sweat pouring out from his forehead, Stark continued running, his time was counted, and although he wondered just how was any of the other students supposed to survive this, he still had his own safety in mind first. Black Sun Curse, 97%, warning, get to a bonfire. The warning blared in Stark's mind as he sprinted through the city outskirts, now ignoring the monsters that tried to stop him as he didn't want to waste time. He could feel the black sun looking at him, awaiting for him to be consumed by its powers to transform him. But it would never have this pleasure. Since when he turned around another corner, Stark spotted the flickering glow of a bonfire in the middle of a giant street. And beyond it, a silver fog wall could be seen. Bingo. Black Sun Curse, 98%, warning, get to a bonfire. Relief flooded through him as he pushed himself to run even faster. Warning panels surrounded his view as the number reached 99%, but thankfully enough, he was able to reach the bonfire, entering the safe space right before the boss battle. Chapter 22, No Cheating. The bonfire crackled and flickered, casting a warm, reassuring light in the dark world Stark found himself in. Entered safe space, enjoy the safety while it lasts. The silver fog wall loomed right in front of him, only a few meters away, a barrier separating him from whatever awaited on the other side, the boss of the city ruins. But for now, all he wanted to do was rest. He sat on the ground around the bonfire, enjoying the feeling of slowly regaining his HP and the curse of the black sun going down. No. I can't rest now, he thought after sitting down for a minute, and then got up. Experience, 65,960 out of 75,000, I'll get to level 10, then I can rest as much as I want. He nodded before getting up. He had retrieved some of his life back, plus he was confident he would have no issue dealing with enemies nearby. There were some monsters he had never seen roaming nearby, and so he decided to do something quite strange. He went to the border of the safe zone, and then put half of his body outside, allowing the monsters to see him. Some immediately rushed to kill the human, while others just looked, waiting to see what would happen. And so as some monsters were about to hit Stark, he took a step back and went inside the safe zone again. And then, let's see if that works. He laughed, then tried to punch the monsters while still in the safe zone, giving him an almost impossible to break shield while still being able to hit them as his fist traversed the barrier. Minus 2,719. Minus 3,162. Minus 2,913. The monsters outside the safe zone roared in frustration as Stark's punches connected through the barrier, dealing damage without putting himself at risk. I'm actually cheating the system. How has nobody thought of that before? He laughed, trying to punch yet another monster. But zap, minus 100. A lightning strike that came from the sky hit his body and dealt 100 points of damage to him. Luckily he had allowed his HP to go up with the bonfire, or else it would have been bad. No cheating. This panel appeared in front of him. Stark groaned before leaving the safe zone and killed the last monster that was in front of the barrier. This was the last one anyway, I wasn't gonna abuse it, he shouted to whoever, or whatever, was watching him, but of course, no response. You have slain City Beast LV-15, gained 3,000 EXP, you have slain 2 Mouthless Figures LV-15, gained 5,800 EXP, you have slain Occultist LV-15, gained 2,750 EXP, and of course, eliminating those foes resulted in the reappearance of the golden aura, once again enveloping him. Your level has increased to level 10, granting you 1 skill point and boost in stats. Experience, 2,510 out of 85,000, finally. Damn it. Stark smiled and sat beside the bonfire again, enjoying the feeling of finally reaching level 10, meaning he could now equip the necklace he had acquired. And also, level 10 reached. Please pick a skill card. Just like last time, 3 cards materialized in front of him out of thin air, this time their color was blue. Oh yeah. That thing, this had been how he acquired, Aura Smash. It seemed like he would be able to choose a new skill every 5 levels. Stark gazed at the 3 blue cards in front of him, pondering his choice carefully. Oh well, it's not like I can decide what skill I'll get, he shrugged and picked the middle card at random. The other 2 disappeared once he did that, and so he turned the card he picked to see an image of himself. Name, Clone Frenzy, Type, Rare, Level, 1, Description, summons a clone of yourself that acts and fights just like you do, giving you a temporary additional character to control in battle. The clone does damage based on how much aura you give it, but its stats are extremely reduced, and its HP is set to 1, cooldown period of 30 minutes between each clone. And yet again, below the description was some sort of low-budget animation showing how the skill worked. A stickman that was supposed to be Stark used aura to summon another stickman that looked exactly like him, and he was able to control it to fight enemies. I guess it's good. Stark would need to see it in battle to judge, but this was his first rare type skill, meaning that it must be good, right? Clone Frenzy has been added to your skill list. You have upgraded Clone Frenzy to level 2. After reaching level 10 and acquiring this skill, Stark just sighed and looked at the sky while sitting beside the bonfire. Its darkness was mesmerizing for some strange reason. Spatial inventory, he mumbled after 5 minutes, and the small void appeared beside him. He hesitated for a few seconds, but then put his arm inside while thinking of the Soulbearer's Embrace necklace. Suddenly, he could feel his fingers brushing against the cool metal of the necklace, and so he pulled out his hand, just to see that the necklace was in fact inside it. I guess that's pretty cool and convenient. Without wasting time, he put the necklace around his neck. Soulbearer's Embrace equipped. If he remembered correctly, That necklace was supposed to give him plus 20 strength, plus 100 horsepower, and also special perk, grants the wearer the ability to absorb a very small percentage of damage dealt back as health. If there was a way to gain health through damage, then he sure as hell was gonna take it. I guess that's all for now, isn't it? He lay on the cold ground. Maybe it was dirty, but even sitting down left him uncomfortable, so this was his best option. He needed to be full of energy before attempting to kill the boss after all, since he would do it alone and only at level 10, while it was probably recommended to do it with a party of level 15 classifiers. I hope that new skill helps. It would be great if it truly worked just as I envisioned it to be. Stark kept thinking about the future for a bit. And then, before he even realized it, the ground became strangely comfortable. And so he closed his eyes. Chapter 23, A Sleeping Stark? People began rushing through the beginning areas after the message of the mini-boss being defeated appeared. After all, this dungeon was supposed to be used to level up, mostly, safely while also gaining experience, so if someone completed it quickly, they would have less time to do so. The deeper they went, the higher amount of experience they could get, and the least the people that would be there to annoy them. Laya was one of those that prioritized completing the dungeon over leveling up since she already had the gear to do so, although she was alone. Soon enough she reached the level 15 area advanced district, and from now on only the strongest were there. Kent and Bill had also decided they wouldn't go further inside the dungeon past that point as it was too dangerous, and they also believed that Stock was the same. After all, who was dumb enough to go for the boss in the first day, right? Right? Minus 928. Minus 827. Killing enemies, Lana kept going. Her interest wasn't to level up as she was now level 20, more than enough to start going into actual dungeons, not beginner ones. And although Archer was considered one of the weaker classes, her powers and equipment were still good enough to compete with all the others, except for domination, obviously. Her goal wasn't to level up, but to defeat the dungeon and boss. Complete that dungeon and be the strongest one inside there, her father, an extremely strong classifier, told her. So her goal, just like Stark, was to complete the dungeon as fast as possible and retrieve all the rewards, fame. Of course, she wasn't dumb, so she would obviously wait for some high-potential people to help her out with the boss. Going alone was suicide. But for now, she needed to get to the bonfire before the boss. 3 hours later, I see it. Lana smiled. She had successfully entered the city outskirts, which was the last area of the city ruins, rift, and managed her way through all the monsters. All she could see around her was the empty streets. No one was there, meaning that she was probably the first to reach this place. No. She was confident that she was the only one. And right in front of her was the bonfire before the final boss of the dungeon. She would set herself there and wait for around 4 more people to create a party and defeat that boss together. This dungeon is more dangerous than I thought. But there's definitely no one there. All the others are too weak to fight the monsters here as of now. She kept advancing. And the moment Lana reached the giant bonfire. Huh? She spotted a pair of legs right behind the fire, and as she peeked her head to check what, or who, it was, she spotted a sleeping Stark. What? She was astonished. Not only had someone already reached this area, but Stark nonetheless. How did he do it? Did he avoid every monster and through some godly luck reach this place? No. This wouldn't be possible. Her mind immediately wandered to the time Stark defeated Daniel and caused massive amount of damage to him. Could it be? She approached him slowly, making sure not to wake him up, and got closer to his sleeping face. Stark seemed to be resting peacefully, his face calm and serene. It was as if this whole dungeon didn't matter to him. Realizing this wouldn't lead to anything, Lana just sat on the ground beside the bonfire, waiting for other people to come. In the realm of dreams, Stark found himself standing in a vast, empty space. The air was cool and soothing, a stark contrast to the harsh world he had been navigating just moments ago. As he looked around, he noticed a figure in the distance, its features blurred and indistinct. Something about it drew him closer, an inexplicable pull that beckoned him forward. With each step he took, the figure seemed to shimmer and shift, changing form until it finally solidified into a mirror image of himself. Stark stared in disbelief at the doppelganger before him, feeling a strange mix of curiosity and unease. The other Stark smiled, a perfect replica of his own grin, and spoke in a voice that sounded like an echo of his own thoughts. Are you ready? Ready for what? The real one answered, confused. The first domination trial, you have read about it several times in your status window, right? Yeah. He hadn't ignored it all this time, it was just he didn't have any info, so he didn't think it was worth it. For now. It is coming soon, and you will suffer, but in the end. The fake Stark didn't have the time to finish its sentence that it vanished. And suddenly, the dream world started to shake, A proof that Stark was beginning to wake up. 30 minutes later. Stark opened his eyes, rubbing them as he got up, then remembered about where he was. Holy shit, did I seriously sleep in here? Luckily nobody saw. He turned his head, and noticed Lana looking at him. I'm surprised you could even sleep here with the boss lurking around the corner, were the first words she said as she was busy inspecting her bows and arrows. Gotta be full of energy before fighting the boss, shouldn't I be? Stark replied while yawning, not even questioning why she was here, and got up from the ground. His clothes were a bit dirty but it didn't bother him. Fighting the boss? But you're alone. Yeah? That's kinda the point, you know. Stark wasn't the type to hide his achievements, so he didn't care about telling anyone that asked him about the fact he had killed the mini-boss by himself, although most wouldn't believe him. He stretched for a bit while talking to Lana, the shock across her face growing more and more after each of his replies. How did you even get here? Killing the monsters. Isn't that obvious? These questions were almost becoming silly, and so after a few minutes of back and forth, Stark decided that it was time. His HP were full, he had all his skills, and his necklace was equipped. Nothing could stop him now, except an insta-kill attack from the boss. And so just like that, he left the safe space and headed toward the silver fog. Where are you going? Lana got up too, surprised. Going to kill the boss. Stark grinned and traversed the wall of fog, not even bothering to hear her reply. Lana stood there, unable to understand whatever the fuck was happening. The only thing she knew was that she couldn't let Stark defeat the boss by himself if he had some sort of trick up his sleeve. No, she meant she couldn't let Stark die alone. And so she followed after him. Chapter 24, the boss of the city ruined. Stark, unbothered, kept advancing through the fog. He had already done this once before for the mini-boss, so the atmosphere and cries of souls that begged him to turn back didn't bother him anymore. Lana on the other hand had never experienced such a thing, and so she couldn't help but feel slightly uncomfortable, if not scared. Reaching her arm forward in the hopes of finally leaving the fog, she was able to grab something, Stark's shirt. The boy stopped and looked behind him to see Alana with a weird expression. Paranoia stretched across her face as her pupils darted in all directions. Can you please let me go? Why did you even follow me? Hearing his voice, Lana felt more appeased, but of course she didn't show it and instead let go of his shirt. Don't get ahead of yourself, I just don't want you to steal all the rewards. Tsundere-ass attitude. Stark rolled his eyes before continuing to walk through the fog, Lana following closely as she didn't want to be alone. And after a few seconds, they reached the boss area. You have entered the boss area, there is no going back from here. As they emerged from the thick, swirling fog and their eyes adjusted to the dim light, they were finally able to take in the sight of the boss area. Surrounding them was a massive circle of abandoned buildings, eerie and desolate with no visible exit or means of escape. And at the center of it all, rising above the ruins, stood a grand mansion with shadowy windows and an imposing aura. Behind them was obviously the silver wall of fog, but once you traversed it, there is no way to go back. One of the 15 members of the Godless Demons group is present here. Kill it. Participants, Stark Heart Souls, Lana Moonless, where's your weapon? Lana grabbed her bow and magic arrows, ready to fight. I don't have one, Stark replied while smiling. What? Bebot? Don't worry about me and focus on yourself, I won't protect you after all, he replied and began walking toward the mansion. She knew he was right as she honestly had no reason to worry about him, but of course, there was also the fact they were both participants in this, so she wanted him to at least be useful. Lana followed closely behind Stark as they approached the grand mansion in the center of the boss area. But as they reached the halfway point, slam with a loud creak, the massive doors of the mansion swung open, revealing a menacing figure that stood behind them. The boss stepped out, its powerful presence emanating an overwhelming aura of authority and malice. Malakor, City Mayor, Boss. This text appeared in front of both the classifiers when he appeared, and so the two of them took a few seconds to observe him. Malakor, the city mayor, stood tall and imposing in front of them. His elaborate smoking gleamed ominously in the dim light, adding to his intimidating appearance. His eyes burned with a malevolent glow and his wicked grin sent shivers down their spines. He wore pure white gloves on both hands and shiny black shoes, giving off an air of wealth and power. To further add to his sinister image, Malakor's face was half hidden by a black sun mask while a strange melon hat adorned his head. Without a word, he raised a hand and summoned dark energy that crackled around his fingers menacingly. Lana began to aim her bow at the mayor, and seeing that Stark was doing nothing actively scared her more than the boss itself. On the other hand, Stark took a few seconds to use perception and check the boss. Name, Malakor. City Mayor, Boss, Level, 15, HP, 45,000, Strength, 471, Stamina, 289, Speed, 154, Defense, 829, Skills: Dark Pulse, the Cane, Abyssal Shield, Godless Demon, the Mayor's Control, Hat Trick. The mayor was slowly walking toward them. His stats were pretty good, although more on the defensive side than in the rest, and its speed was extremely low. Stark smirked at the boss's stats, analyzing them carefully in his mind. His demeanor was calm and collected. A Stark, get it? Contrast to Lana's nerves that seemed to be getting the best of her. Without a word, he suddenly sprinted towards Malakar. Dark Pulse. Malakar crouched, both his hands touching the ground, and veins of darkness immediately began spreading towards Stark and Lana. When he was close enough to one of the veins, it would come out of the ground to try and pierce him, but of course, Stark had focus and was able to narrowly dodge them by rolling to the side each time. What the fuck is he doing? Why is he rolling like this? Lana pondered, and shot one of her arrows toward the mayor. -628. It hit him in the chest, but he was so focused on Stark that he wasn't bothered by such an attack. Lana was shocked that Stark was going to engage with the boss head-on, something most people would consider suicide. Strategy was key in the rifts, yet here he was doing random shit. After Dark Pulse ended, Malakar rose up to his full height, which was approximately 4 meters, and unleashed another attack. The Cane. He bellowed, as a shadowy cane materialized in his hand. With a flick of his wrist, the cane elongated and lashed out towards Stark like a viper. Stark reacted quickly, drawing upon his agility and reflexes. He dodged the sweeping strike by a hair's breadth, but then the cane turned around, controlled by the mayor and able to defy the laws of physics. Not expecting that, Stark only had a few microseconds to adjust, and so the best course of action was to put lots of aura around the area where it was aimed. -721. He was hit, and although he protected himself, he still received a lot of damage, making him stumble to the ground. HP, 479 out of 1200, plus 100 from Soul Bearer's Embrace. He immediately got up though, and with unwavering determination continued running toward the mayor. Lana shot another arrow at the boss, this time infusing it with the Dragon Breath skill. -1219. She was able to deal very good damage to the boss, enough this time to actually make him acknowledge her presence, but too focused on Stark to attack her. He is actually distracting him very well, Lana gently smiled. She was surprised that Stark was able to dodge all these attacks all the while closing the distance between him and the boss. That didn't explain how he would deal damage though since he had no weapon. And so just like this, the fight against the boss of this rift began. Chapter 25, Malakar, the City Mayor, 1, Aura Smash. After getting up from the cane hit he received, Stark focused his aura around his hand, ready to attack the mayor too. With a powerful shout, Stark unleashed his aura smash towards the mayor, the giant crimson fist hurtling towards its target. But of course, Malakar saw the attack coming, and so he used a hand that wasn't carrying the cane to use another skill. Abyssal Shield. A shimmering black barrier materialized in front of Malakar just in time to intercept Stark's aura smash. The impact created a shock wave that reverberated through the air, causing the ground to tremble beneath their feet. -627. The shield after being hit by such a powerful attack obviously cracked under the immense pressure and was destroyed, meaning the mayor wouldn't be able to use it for a while. -1171. Lana also used another arrow infused with another one of her skills, dealing more damage to Malakar. It seemed like they were doing it slowly, but little by little, the mayor was receiving more and more damage. Boss HP, 41,355 out of 45,000. Lana was a very good support, dealing damage from afar while Stark held him off. Our chemistry is surprisingly good, although I would prefer if he could actually do something. Lana hadn't noticed the appearance of the Abyssal Shield right before Stark's attack hit, meaning that she thought he dealt medium damage to it. Stark continued his relentless assault on Malakar, dodging the boss's attacks with expert precision and slowly but surely approaching him. And when he was only a few meters away now, he dashed forward. The cane. The boss still had his cane in his hands, and so he tried to hit Stark with it. Stark rolled on the ground, and once it came to him, instead of taking the hit like last time, he literally just used his fists to hit and break it. The mayor was taken aback. Got you, Stark smiled as he had completely closed the distance now. He was in the perfect range to attack the mayor. And so he did. Before Malakar could even use another one of his skills, Stark focused his aura and -3,712. Even with his powerful defense, Stark's aura and stats dealt massive damage. What? Lana was astonished, even going as far as stopping to aim with her bow to make sure the number she was seeing was right, and it was. Calm down, Lana, focus on the battle. She shook her head and began arming her bow to shoot again. -3,819. Stark was even able to punch the boss again as it hadn't had the time to counter the first one. Hat trick. The mayor used another one of his skills, and suddenly, his hat was enveloped in a dark, ominous energy. The hat lifted off his head, spinning wildly in the air before shooting towards Stark like a spinning blade of darkness. Stark barely had time to react, but he managed to deflect the hat with a swift movement of his arm. -281. It dealt him some damage, but not enough to actually be worried. The hat ricocheted off a nearby rock and soared back towards Malakr, who grabbed it and bowed like a gentleman afterward. A smirk could be seen on the visible half of his face. Stark backed away after that, sensing that the mayor was going to keep attacking. And after a few back steps, he found himself right next to Lana, who was still aiming her bow and arrows at Malakr. -718. She hit him in the chest again, then armed another arrow right after. Malakr on the other hand was spinning the cane in his hand, almost enjoying the show. I'm low on HP. Stark thought, he had received 2 hits already. But as he thought about that, a panel appeared in front of him. Dealt massive damage to boss enemy, regaining 59 horsepower, the Soul Bearer's Embrace necklace perk activated, and he was able to gain some of it back. Oh shit, it's small, but it might actually make the difference. Stark, regaining his confidence, smiled. I'm gonna go back, keep doing whatever you're doing, I'll keep him away from you. Stark spoke to Lana, then began dashing away before she could reply. She sighed before smiling. You better do your job. Stark sprinted back towards the mayor, his determination burning brighter than ever. Malakr smirked as he saw Stark approaching, readying himself for another round of combat. Dark Pulse. The mayor summoned the veins into the ground again, and every single one of them went rushing toward him. This time, however, Stark had a new strategy in mind. Clone Frenzy. He used his latest skill. Description: summons a clone of yourself that acts and fights just like you do, giving you a temporary additional character to control in battle. The clone does damage based on how much aura you give it, but its stats are extremely reduced, and its HP is set to 1, cooldown period of 30 minutes between each clone, and suddenly, his aura started seeping out of his body and headed right in front of him, forming a perfect replica of Stark, ready to assist in a battle against the mayor. The clone's eyes were completely white, some aura pouring out from them like a fire, and its expression was neutral. Its eyes were locked on Malakr with unwavering focus, awaiting Stark's orders. Let's do this, Stark muttered to his clone as they both charged towards the oncoming dark pulse veins. The clone mimicked Stark's movements, almost perfectly, matching his speed and agility as they weaved through the rushing veins. What the? Lana was confused, why were there suddenly 2 Starks? She aimed her bow at the mayor as he smiled at the upcoming enemies, then fired again. -528. Somehow, it felt like she was doing less and less damage. Was there a reason to that? Meanwhile, Stark and his clone dodged and countered, working in perfect synchrony to break through the dark onslaught. The cane. Feeling threatened for the first time, the mayor summoned his cane in hand, then elongated it towards the clone. Aw shit. Stark knew that his clone's HP was set to 1, meaning it couldn't even defend such an attack without dying. And so he positioned himself right in front of the cane and deflected it with a powerful slam. -72. He received almost no damage thanks to that. And then, aura smash. Now only 5 meters away from the mayor, Stark decided it was time. And so, both his and his clone's hands began glowing with a bright crimson aura. Chapter 26, Malakr, the city mayor, 2. Controlling the clone revealed itself to be much more of a challenge than Stark believed it to be, even more so since it was his first time with no prior testing. Thankfully enough though, it seemed like the clone actively thought for itself and subconsciously did what Stark wanted it to do. Which was why it also used aura smash when he did, copying him. Both Stark and the clone's right hands began glowing with that ominous aura, and after a few seconds, Stark punched the air in the mayor's direction, sending a crimson fist of aura toward him. -3712. A powerful blow to the boss, who was forced to back away because of the sheer damage. But that wasn't all. Stark immediately ordered the clone to repeat what he just did, sending another aura smash attack towards the mayor. The clone, without hesitation, mirrored Stark's movements perfectly, launching a second crimson fist at Malakr. -1727. It was less powerful than the original, but still fairly good for a copy. And also, enemy stunned. Oh my god, Stark was bewildered. He didn't believe that the clone could also cause status effects, but oh boy was he wrong. The boss fell to his knees, unable to get up or move any of his limbs, and also unable to use his magic since it required him to move his hands. What the? Lana thought as she saw both Starks suddenly run toward the boss without caring about anything. She wasn't even aiming with her bow anymore, instead just enjoying the spectacle before her eyes. Stark ordered his clone to dash toward the boss as it was the perfect moment to cause a huge amount of damage, and so they both did just that. The clone lunged at the stunned mayor with a fierce battle cry, its aura-infused fist ready to strike. Stark followed closely behind, channeling all his energy into his next move. As they closed in on Malakar, the clone unleashed a devastating blow, hitting the boss with unparalleled force. -2319. The clone backed away after this attack as Stark followed through with a kick to the jaw. -4312. Then Stark also moved to the right for the clone to punch Malakar in the face. -2129. Using the clone's back as a jumping pad, Stark then grabbed both its shoulders to jump in the air and smash the mayor's head. -6462. They had just comboed the boss, and dealt almost 15k points of damage in a matter of seconds. Dealt damage to boss enemy, regaining 158 horsepower, HP, 343 out of 1200. After receiving all these attacks, Malakar was finally able to move, and immediately used hat trick, sending his hat toward the real Stark. Taken aback, Stark asked his clone to place itself in front of him. And so it did. -1728. My god, the damage is insane. Is something wrong with that boss? Stark would have definitely died if he had been hit, even if he deflected it or used his aura around his body. The clone after being hit by this attack immediately vanished, and the crimson aura that formed it went back to Stark. You did well, he smiled, almost feeling like he lost someone close to him, but instantly going back to serious mode as he needed to focus. Boss HP, 11,917 out of 45,000, the boss is enraged. Be careful, this panel appeared in front of them both. It seemed like that in this world, when bosses reach their halfway point, or when their HP gets reduced enough, they go into some sort of second phase, frenzy. And Malakar was no different. The mayor's domain. He got up, lifting both his arms sideways as his eyes began glowing, and even his black sun mask was emanating a dark aura. -462. But even mid-power-up, Lana still shot an arrow at the boss. Apostrophe. Stark turned to look at her. Aren't we supposed to let him finish his transformation before attacking? I think killing him while he is powering up is more efficient. She replied. Somehow during the 15 minutes they had been fighting, she found it in herself to trust Stark. Fair enough, but I still wanna see what he does. Stark smiled and waited. As the mayor continued his transformation, a dark energy began swirling around him, creating an ominous aura that sent shivers down Stark's spine. He couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding as he witnessed the dark power radiating from the mayor's form. Lana, sensing the imminent danger, notched another arrow on her bowstring, ready to strike at any moment. The tension in the air was palpable as they all waited to see what Malakar's new form would bring to the battlefield. And then, crash from all the nearby buildings, the mansion, and even the ground, monsters began to come out. Hey, that's not a transformation, he looks the same, Stark complained, although he couldn't deny the aura around the boss was more sinister, and its figure felt more imposing. Name, City Inhabitant LV8, name, Businessman LV12, name, Cursed Dog LV6. All the different monsters they had met in the dungeon appeared all of a sudden, all under the control of the mayor as they followed his every command. Lana shot a monster, killing it, then armed her bow again, sweat pouring from her forehead as she knew the sheer number of monsters was too much for her to take currently. Survive, I'll go kill that bastard. Stark looked at her with his determined eyes, and all she could do was nod. Be quick. Please. She mumbled, low enough for him to not hear her. With a nod of understanding, Stark focused his attention on the mayor and his horde of creatures. The monsters moved with unnatural coordination, their eyes filled with a malevolent gleam as they closed in on Stark. But Stark wasn't interested in any of them, and so he began running toward the mayor. His arms were still lifted up, probably because this is how he controlled the inhabitants of his city. He avoided most of the monsters, and occasionally killed some that were fast enough to catch up to him. And so, just like this, Stark closed the distance between him and the boss. And thus, the final showdown could begin. Chapter 27, Defeating the Boss. Take this, Stark activated, Aura Smash, and sent another Crimson Fist toward the boss. But, -4729. A bunch of LV-13 monsters placed themselves in front of him to protect the mayor, taking the hit in its place. -627. The mayor received minimal damage since he was protected. Malakar smirked as he saw his monster take the blow for him, clearly enjoying the show of power and the feeling of being in total control. Stark was surrounded, and surprisingly enough, Malakar ordered his monsters to mainly target Stark, leaving Lana to deal with a low amount of monsters. Stark gritted his teeth in frustration at the interference, but didn't let it deter him. He swiftly followed up with a series of lightning-fast punches, aiming to break through the defenses and land a crippling blow on the mayor himself. No monster that was in his way stood a chance. Malachor, however, remained calm amidst the chaos, his eyes locked onto Stark with an unsettling calmness. With a swift gesture of his hand, he activated the cane skill, summoning the object in his right hand. His left one, however, was still in the air, controlling the monsters. It seems like it's losing control over them when one of its hands is down. Stark noticed that some monsters weren't even moving anymore, giving him the chance to close the distance further. Only 5 meters before reaching the boss now. The cane came rushing toward him, changing directions every time it met a monster, and then -272. Stark saw it coming, but even while deflecting it, it still did good damage. His defense and attack are higher than before, he thought, not even stopping after that hit. But it doesn't matter. Stark wanted to end it, and so he used the back of a monster to jump in the air, high enough to avoid any incoming attacks from the mayor or his minions. He soared through the air, his aura blazing around him like a fiery comet, looking down on all the monsters below. With a fierce battle cry, Stark descended upon Malachor, his fist aimed straight at the mayor's face. -3718. As Stark's fist connected with the mayor's cheek, a shockwave resonated through the battlefield. Using in the momentum in his favor, Stark used the Malachor's body to launch him in the air again, avoiding both the hat trick, the cane, and all the attacks from the monsters. Let's end this, the sea of monsters below are waiting for him to fall. Stark spinned in the air. Or a smash. He activated the skill, ready to launch it down, this time confident he would hit all his targets as he had the boss in his vision. Holy shit. Lana was astonished, and she found it quite beautiful as Stark's figure perfectly aligned with the giant black sun in the sky, creating an effect where Stark's aura was perfectly visible around him. It only took Stark a singular second to aim his attack below, and so he launched the giant crimson fist at the monsters under him. Whish! Boom! The explosion was bigger than any other this attack had ever caused. -6371. The mayor couldn't use his minions to protect himself, and so being hit by the center of the attack meant he received the highest amount of damage. Plus, enemy stunned, all the monsters in his surroundings cleared from the crimson fist. Stark began dropping down toward Malachor as he couldn't move his body anymore. The boss used every ounce of strength it had left to lift its face just a bit, and thus he saw the sight of Stark diving toward him, his fist full of aura, ready to end the battle. It's the end, it thought, acknowledging that it couldn't do anything anymore. With a fierce determination in his eyes, Stark descended upon the stunned Mayor Malachor, his fist crackling with intense energy as he prepared to deliver the final blow. The air around them seemed to vibrate with anticipation as Stark's attack loomed closer and closer to its target. Malachor, unable to move due to the stunning impact of Stark's previous strike, could only watch in helpless horror as the inevitable approached. As Stark's fist made contact with Malachor's form, a blinding explosion of energy erupted from the point of impact, sending shockwaves rippling through the battlefield. -5372. Boss HP, 0 out of 45,000, Malachor fell to the ground, his body lifeless as his HP had been reduced to 0. And so, unable to control his domain anymore, all the monsters inside the boss area fell, disappearing a few seconds later. Lana, who was overwhelmed by the monsters, almost let a cry of joy when she noticed that they were all gone, and so without wasting time she dashed toward Stark. "You did." She jumped to hug him. Stark, a neutral expression on his face, didn't reciprocate the hug. Oh, realizing how embarrassing what she did was, she let go of him. "Gee, good job." "Yes," Stark nodded, unaffected by her presence. After all, he had done most of the job. "You have slain Malachor, City Mayor LV-15, boss, gained 7500 exp, and adding the experience gained from the many monsters he had defeated while rushing to the boss." Stark was enveloped by the golden glow again. "Your level has increased to level 11, granting you 1 skill point and boost in stats, experience, 2,617 out of 100,000. Lana was also enveloped with the glow, meaning she had leveled up as well, and even though she hadn't done much, she was still a participant. Dealt killing blow to boss enemy, regaining 507 horsepower, HP, 578 out of 1,450, but of course, along these few panels came a few other ones. You have beaten the boss while only being 2, low help achievement, granting you a better equipment piece. You have defeated the boss of this rift. The Black Sun has acknowledged your strength and will not be trying to infect you anymore. Your efforts have paid. You can now leave this rift whenever you want. Above the mayor's lifeless body, something began shining. An item had appeared. Immediately, Stark began walking toward it. "I'm taking it, by the way. I did everything." A neutral expression on his face, he informed Lana, who was also reading the panels. Okay," She had nothing to say, he had done most of the work after all. And just like that, Stark was able to defeat the boss. I wish she hadn't followed me though. I would have probably gotten an amazing item if I beat it solo. He groaned while crouching to take the item. Chapter 28, New Items and Information. When Stark approached the shiny light on top of the mayor's body, Lana following closely behind him to see what he would get, he noticed that there wasn't only one item, but two. The first one was a blue bow that emanated some sort of chilly magic aura. It seemed to be of high quality. The second item, however, caught Stark's attention even more. It was a ring with a glowing crystal in the center, radiating a soft, soothing light. He immediately decided to use perception to analyze both these items. Item: the ice bow. Type: bow. Class: archer. Tier: rare. Required level: 20. Quality: good. Attributes: plus 30 speed, plus 20 stamina. Special perks: while using this bow, arrows have a 5% chance to freeze enemies. Item: crystal heart band. Type: ring. Class: domination. Tier: epic. Required level: 15. Quality: excellent. Attributes: plus 50 health, plus 40 mind, plus 10 strength, plus 10 speed, plus 10 soul, plus 10 stamina, plus 10 defense. Special perks: grants the wearer a shield that absorbs 10% of incoming damage. Holy shit, this is up. Stark laughed. He had gotten an incredible item again, and he would also be able to sell the bow at a fair price, making his journey totally worth it. Wait, there are two items. One is a bow, and I'm an archer, so can I get it? The bow in front of her was better than the one she was using currently, and she also had the required level. Weapons with perks weren't that rare, but those that had one were much more expensive than the ones that didn't. Stark stared at her for a few seconds, then back at the bow. Nah, it's mine. He activated spatial inventory, and put the bow and ring inside. Lana didn't even question the weird void that opened and that was somehow able to store both the items. She was just shocked Stark wouldn't even give her that while he wasn't even an archer. If you want the bow, Stark maniacally smiled at her. You'll have to pay up. He rubbed 3 of his fingers together, mimicking the sign of money. Lana didn't know what to reply. On one hand she knew that Stark was the sole reason she survived the boss fight, whether it was from stopping him from approaching her, or forcing most of the monsters to go toward him, it was undeniable that he had helped her. And yet, she couldn't believe he was so petty over such a small matter. You can take them, she made up her mind, but she would make sure to buy a bow way better than the one he had acquired. Good girl. Stark patted her shoulders, then began walking toward the exit. She had never been treated this way before. It was always respect and admiration that surrounded her, as well as undeniable love from all those around her. And yet, when she saw Stark so nonchalantly call her a good girl without even being embarrassed, it was like something snapped inside of her. Her face was bright red, and she tried her hardest to hide it. What the hell is happening? Calm down, me. You can't be aroused by this. Leaving Lana behind to fight with her inner conflicts, Stark decided it was time for him to leave the dungeon. He had nothing else to do in there, and wanted to sell his items as well. But as he began taking steps toward the exit, a panel appeared in front of him. Congratulations for completing your first dungeon, host. As a reward, you have been granted new information, apostrophe. Stark stopped for a few seconds to read. What kind of information do I need at this point? You can read the information now or leave it for later, not recommended. Curiosity getting the better of him, Stark decided to read the new information he had received as a reward for completing his first dungeon. As he focused on the panel in front of him, the words started forming a message. New information unlocked, domination class. He guessed that it was actually interesting. He had absolutely no information about this one after all. The domination class is possibly the most powerful class in this world, but it is also the hardest. Classifiers who own this class are bound by many rules. Their life is immediately set to hell mode, meaning that enemies are a lot stronger while fighting them. The amount of experience needed to level up is also increased by a ton, but in exchange, every level up grants a lot more power than any other class. The monsters are stronger, but they also grant more EXP, huh? I guess the amount of experience needed between each of my levels is indeed much more than anyone else. Thinking that was all, Stark continued walking toward the exit of the boss area, the mansion, as a portal had appeared there. Wait, a crimson panel that exuded a menacing aura appeared again before. 5 days left until the first domination trial. Good luck. The fuck? It stopped me again for that? This was all that appeared in front of him, and once that panel disappeared, nothing else came. The trial is happening in 5 days. Subconsciously, Stark remembered that such a thing was written on his status window, and so he decided to open it. Level 11, health point 578, 1450, bloodline human, class domination, info about class The first domination trial is in 5 days. Good luck, talent, chosen 1, attributes, strength, 103, speed, 92, mind/soul, 73, stamina, 73, defense, 78, skills, spatial inventory, class wheel, perception, domination level 5, focus level 3, aura smash level 4, clone frenzy level 2. This character has a high strength with strong speed and defense, indicating they're well suited for both offensive and defensive roles. The domination class and associated skills like aura smash and clone frenzy add a unique edge, likely enhancing their ability to control the battlefield and maintain high-impact attacks. What the hell is the domination trial? Somehow, he had a really bad feeling about it, one that told him he would meet his end there. The fact it was so soon meant he wouldn't be able to look for an academy/organization/guild to go to after showing his achievements to the world. The first thing he would need to do was to participate in that thing. Stark was a bit overwhelmed by the new information about the domination class, but he didn't have much time to think about it. He had to focus on selling his items and on the impending domination trial in 5 days. He reached the portal that was beyond the mansion's door, and after giving one last look to the embarrassed Lena, he passed through it. Fuck that shit, I'll find a way, he thought. Chapter 29, Second Duel? With new information about the domination class in mind, Stark appeared in the area where he had first entered the city ruins, in Lephoria. Congratulations on completing the rift, Stark Heart Souls. This panel appeared as soon as he left, of course invisible to everyone but him. There were still a lot of people still outside the city ruins, mostly just engaging in pointless conversations and forming teams, while some others just procrastinated or waited for the first layers to be less crowded. Some people noticed him coming out of the rift, but of course they just thought he was another one of those that took a break as many did. And right after that, "This rift has been completed by redacted." This giant red text appeared above the portal to the dungeon, taking everyone aback as they hadn't expected it. What? So soon, but I didn't even enter? Panic spread through the crowd, and after a few seconds, boom, 5 beams of lights appeared at the entrance area. It was the Golden Dragon's military group. Is there some kind of issue with the rift? Their leader, Oliver, wondered, unable to understand how could it be completed so fast. They had expected at least 3 days, giving the time for all the students to gain experience and sort out the ones unfit to fight the enemies. Yuli, a white-haired girl beside him, analyzed the portal for a bit, using some sort of skill to check out whatever was happening. No. The boss has truly been defeated by someone. Oliver chuckled, we have a high-potential individual team in our hands, don't we? Welp, the rules are the rules, order everyone to be back here in less than 30 minutes. It had only been half a day since the start of the class showcase, and yet it had already ended. It is unfortunate, Alex, a magus with a blue staff in his hands, sighed. We'll find some way to make the students gain more experience, probably just by allowing them to go back inside the rift, but for now we need everyone to leave for a checkup. Apostrophe. Meanwhile, Stark stopped in the distance beside some other classifiers who hadn't even gone inside. No one would ever suspect that he was the one who did it, except if Lana spilled the beans, and even if she did, he honestly had no issues showing his powers. Some of the Golden Dragons went inside to relay the message about the immediate callback of everyone inside. All of them had also received the message of defeat of the boss, and it was an understatement to say that they were shocked. And after 30 minutes, all of those still alive after the few hours inside the rift had already gone out, some annoyed they weren't able to keep going, others relieved as the world inside was terrifying. Those that didn't come out had either been killed by monsters, an unfortunate end, but proof that they weren't fit for this life, while the remainder had been cursed by the Black Sun, forcing them to transform into these beasts. The Golden Dragons, after making sure everything was set, used a voice enhance spell to make sure everyone heard them. The buses that will bring you back to Fellerberg will be coming in less than an hour. Until then we will be holding an inspection on everyone. Dozens of men in black suit were postponed all around the perimeter of the dungeon, and most people hadn't even noticed their presences until they were actually pointed at by Oliver. Please do not do anything reckless. These men are trained to be violent in case of any sign of resistance. Their suits were shining, proof that they were actually enhanced to increase their defense, and the atmosphere around them made it obvious they would be at least level 50 or above. All that for low-level students. Stark thought, and his mind immediately went to the scenario of them forcibly taking items from people. Luckily enough, he had spatial inventory, meaning no one beside him could ever find these items as long as he didn't take them out. As a giant queue was beginning to form around all the different inspectors, Stark, like many who were uncertain, just stood in the middle of ruins, waiting for time to pass. And suddenly, after 10 minutes of that, Stark heard a voice from behind, and when he turned to look, He saw an angry Daniel running toward him alongside his goons. "I found you. Does this guy want to get beat up again?" With determination in his eyes, Stark braced himself for the confrontation with Daniel and his minions. Hearing Daniel's shout, most people in the crowd began looking at him, and even those from afar tried hard to see what the commotion was about. "I didn't find you in the dungeon, and it was because you didn't even enter it, you fucking pussy," he laughed, his steel sword in hand. In response, Stark just stared at him, confused. Okay. You got lucky the first time we fought, but this time, it's over, I'm really gonna kill you." His sword began glowing with a silver aura. "Holy shit, what's happening?" Someone spoke. "Are they fighting?" Another replied. Even the golden dragons watched from afar. Should we stop them? Alex wondered. He frankly enjoyed this type of drama, but not among young folks that weren't even adults yet. "No," Oliver smiled, a bright aura shining in his eyes. "I think we should let them do whatever they want. If someone dies, then it means they weren't fit to be a classifier." Back to Stark, he just stood there, a neutral expression on his face, looking down. To most people, it just meant that he knew he was cornered with no way out, and that he was just begging for mercy. But no, it was the complete opposite. He was stopping himself from laughing. After a few seconds, the black-haired boy looked up, a wide grin on his face. "So let me guess, you wanna fight again?" His confidence was enough to even make Daniel uncomfortable, a drop of sweat pouring from his forehead. "Yes, asshole, I'm going to kill you." The tanned boy doubled down though, ready to slash Stark with his sword. Domination. Stark didn't waste time and activated his main skill, aura enveloping his hands and feet. He was ready to avoid Daniel's attack and absolutely decimate him in front of everyone. Chapter 30, back to Fellerberg. His fists full of aura, Stark positioned himself for the battle against Daniel, and this time there would be no deathless duel or anything of the sort, it was all or nothing. "I am going to kill you." Daniel was starting to doubt his judgment now. The atmosphere around Stark was different than it was 10 seconds ago for some reason. But he couldn't let it show that he was hesitating. He was part of the Prydal family, one of the biggest ones in Fellerberg, if not the entire world. Luckily for him though, someone came to stop whatever was happening. "Lana Moonless, stop whatever you're doing," she spoke with an emotionless voice, placing herself between the two. "Oh my god, that's Lana." "The Lana?" "From the Moonless family, the ones that own lots of businesses, guilds, and are all extremely powerful. I heard her father is called the Archer King." Frankly, Lana would never stoop so low as to stop ongoing battles between people, as she all considered that extremely childish, but for some reason, she felt like she needed to stop this one, and it's totally not because Stark is there, obviously. "Lana, what are you doing?" Daniel showed his soft spot for the blonde-haired archer, unable to defy anything she said, both because of his obsession for her and because her family was stronger. Stark, on the other hand, just looked at her with a neutral expression. It was as if his eyes were staring at her soul. That black-haired guy is done for. Of course Lana is gonna side with Daniel. It's business matter, that guy is cornered. I guess the weak really should just stay back, huh? Lana really wanted to say something to Stark at that moment, not to criticize him or anything, just to make sure everything was alright, but seeing his expression and aura while looking at her, she switched her gaze and looked at Daniel. "Aren't you tired of causing problems?" She spoke to him, giving him a harsh look, completely different from her expression with Stark. "Seriously? I hate men like you." She groaned and began walking toward Stark. What the?" Daniel was astonished. He had not expected to be called out by Lana in such a way. And honestly, no one did. They all expected her to lash out at Stark for being a nuisance. Well, she's going toward him anyway, so he is also getting it. Daniel smirked again, ready to see Lana unleash another barrage of insults at him. But when she approached Stark, none of this happened. She just grabbed his arm and took him away, toward one of the men in black. They disappeared into the crowd before anyone could do anything, and everyone present to see the scene was left speechless. Daniel the first. He had known Lana since she was little, falling in love with her the first time he saw her as a little girl, and their families were on good terms, so to him, everything was going well. When they reached middle school, he relentlessly pursued her, but she would always shrug him off, not even interested in him a single bit. And it wasn't like she was making a bad choice. Daniel is a hypocrite, vowing his love to her but still sleeping around. Just like that, the inspection kept going. When it was Lana's turn to be inspected, the guards let her pass without checking anything. It was obvious, she was famous and her father was probably the boss of these guys, no wonder they didn't check her. Stark on the other hand was right behind the blonde archer, and of course, he was stopped like everybody else. "Please show us the items you acquired, and inform us about what you did in the rift." "No items," he lied. "And also, I am the one that BT tried to speak about his achievements to the guard. After all, Stark was someone who loved to boast. But Lana came to interrupt them. He is with me, no need to inspect him either. But miss, we were tasked to. The guard was put in a tough spot. He had been given strict instructions to not let anyone that isn't Lana or from a big faction family pass without a search. This guy is my friend. Is it so hard to understand, or do you want me to tell my father about it? She hated abusing her powers, but this time was a special occasion as she didn't want Stark to tell them about his fight with the boss. Very well. The guard let Stark pass. Next in line. And so just like that, Stark was allowed out. The buses had already arrived by now, and people were leaving little by little. Welp, thank you I guess. Stark smiled before heading toward a half-full bus that was ready to take off in less than 5 minutes. It was currently around midnight, and so all he wanted to do was take advantage of this ride to sleep. He sat on a bus chair, with no one beside him, and yawned. He had been the one that probably had done the most things inside the rift, so of course he was tired. I just want to sleep. He closed his eyes, and after a few seconds, he sensed a presence beside him. He looked to his right, just to see Lana. Do you have a crush on me or something? Why are you following me? He asked. Huh? Me? There are just no other chairs beside this one I feel comfortable sitting on. Stark took a few seconds to notice many empty chairs in the bus, but just decided it wasn't worth it, and went back to closing his eyes. Soon enough, he fell asleep. Many hours later, the sun was starting to rise, casting its warm rays through the windows of the bus. Stark slowly stirred, feeling the uncomfortable stiffness in his neck and shoulders. He opened his eyes and sat up, blinking away the gritty remnants of sleep from his eyes. They had finally arrived back at the Lotus Academy, and soon enough most of the people left the bus, greeted by their parents or other figures related to them. For this special occasion, even Lana's father, the Archer King, went to check on his daughter, hugging her as soon as she left the bus, Stark right behind her. My little princess, did you do well? He smiled, a proof that he really cared about his daughter. Of course I did, Dad, I beat the boss. That's my girl. He was extremely tall with blonde hair and a beard, and lifted her up while spinning. Stark wasn't interested in such a scene, and so he decided to go back to his hotel room as nobody had come to check on him. He had a rough day ahead of him as he wanted to sell his items, and maybe, just maybe, try to find anything related to that domination trial. But right as he was about to leave. Wait, you, Lana's father shouted, and gestured for him to approach him. For some reason, he had the feeling that Stark was an important person,